you could imagine. They've got the craft food menu, house cocktails. They've got it all. And if you're a sports fan, which I think you probably are if you're listening to this show, they've got every television package you could imagine. They've got all your needs covered on every single sporting event on the landscape. So if you don't know where you're going to watch Utah Mammoth hockey, Utah Jazz basketball, NCAA basketball, which is now underway, and, of course, your Utes and anything on the NFL slate, the answer, the best answer in Salt Lake City is Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. And as always, tell them that OC sent you. Yesterday we had a shortened show. An abbreviated 39 minutes, I think, was kind of the total of what we ended up going. So we didn't really have an opportunity to flesh out all of our thoughts on Utah football, the big win over Cincinnati, the placement now in the top 25, the college football playoff rankings coming out later this afternoon, and where or how or what Utah could see from that. I mean, I really could spend an hour today going over the individual performances we got from the Utes in what was another perfect weather night at Rice-Eccles Stadium. And by the way, this is something that we forget about sometimes. You just fail to appreciate how spectacular it is when your luck turns out that the 6 college football Saturdays a year, and if you're lucky, you'll maybe have 7 in a year. If the weather's good, the games are good, things like that, it's just chef's kiss. Just mwah. We've now had 2 late-night Saturdays in late October and November where the temperature was hoodie weather at worst. In fact, the temperature was so lovely on Saturday night that we had the rise of the NUSS. That's NUSS, the Naked Utah Student Section. The guys going up, copycatting the Oklahoma State, I think it was the Oklahoma State fan base that originated it, where you run up to an empty section of the stands, you take your shirt off, spin it around your head like a helicopter. I would love to know what the final total was on how many people ran up to the top of the stands and did that, but it was a number measured in the high hundreds and probably low thousands, if we're being honest. Stole the show at the end of the game. The NUSS. I've heard it called the NUSS. That was, shout out my guy John Peel, former Ute wide receiver. He was in town from Arizona watching. He is, by the way, a fitness model by trade. That's what he does for his life. He's the one, we've talked about him on the show before. He's the guy who married Utah All-American gymnast Christina Basquette. And she's a Hollywood stunt woman, and he is a now 40-year-old fitness model who's been working since graduating school in that field. That is what we call a Utah Athletics power couple. Anyway, the NUSS, he was the one that said it, so I got to give him credit. I also heard people just call it the MUSS, but it's the Mighty Utah Shirtless section. The game itself was a masterpiece of coaching, performance, bounce back. And I say bounce back because this is a Utah football team who is in need of a little bit of help in the standings. They need results to go their way. Obviously, right now, BYU, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, and even Houston is above Utah, I think, because of just the way that they have it organized right now. That it's not going to end up that way, in my opinion. But this Utah football team, as I said on the show yesterday, is not the group that's going to kind of wither and die. They're not the type that's going to fold up shop and say, well, we can't make it easily to the conference championship game now, so we're just like, it kind of sucks. You got everything to play for. Chaos reigns in college football. The Big 12 has given us evidence of that. West Virginia was the best example last week because that's a terrible football team. They've been awful in all their games. And what did they do? They came out and handed the Houston Cougars a loss. West Virginia doesn't belong in the conversation right now with the top 25 team in the country, and they handed West Virginia handed Houston a loss. So whether the team is even talking about the chaos or not, I highly doubt. I mean, Devin Dampier comes on every single week, and he's like, man, we're just kind of keeping the main thing. We're focused on what we can do this week. And I know it's coach speak to some extent, but it's also the most effective way to handle the challenge in front of you. And this is one of Morgan Scalley's best defensive coaching performances that we've seen. This was Sharif Shaw's maybe best coaching performance that we've seen. By the way, shout out to Sharif Shaw, okay? The special teams that were once an absolute staple and strength of Utah football have fallen on hard times as of late. And the solution that when you talk to a lot of people, right, Sharif is the special teams coordinator, and Sharif Shaw is a guy who is very, very incredibly important and unique to Utah football. For reasons that some people get uncomfortable talking about, I don't get uncomfortable talking about it. Sharif Shaw is the reason why you can get young African-American men who have absolutely no tie to the state, to Utah football, no awareness of the Big 12 or the Pac-12 or whatever. Sharif Shaw is the reason, one of the many reasons, but the primary reason why you can get those recruiting pitches across the finish line, okay? So when the special teams that he is coordinating became, in recent years, kind of like a, hey, what's going on here? I won't say a weakness, but certainly a question, not a strength anymore. In the past, the solution to a situation like that has been to like, all right, these duties are going to someone else. I don't know if you can do that to Sharif Shaw because Sharif was a successful attorney. Coaching is a passion project for him as much as it's his full-time job. It's not something that he needed to make a living. So when Sharif's special teams were underperforming, I don't know what those conversations were like, but the conversation with Sharif should never and could never be, hey man, like we're gonna have to figure something else out because he was doing too good of a job with your corners, continuing to coach up and develop NFL guys. And the encouraging thing is now in the last couple of weeks for Utah football, and really they have not been the liability all season long that they were last year, that they were in the Rose Bowl years. Sharif Shaw got a punt block 2 games ago, got nearly 2 punt return touchdowns in this game, but obviously Mana got loose for the one. And everything else kind of played out the way that you needed it to. More importantly, because special teams is a big deal, but the corners that had not really a ton of star power and value. What we're used to at the University of Utah is corners, safeties, certainly D-line. You're supposed to have somebody in each one of those rooms that you're like, that's an All-American candidate. That's a first-team All-Conference guy for sure. We're definitely going to have an NFL player in this group. And at cornerback, you didn't have anything obvious there this year. We kind of like what we saw from Scooby Davis. Obviously, Smith Snowden has a ton of potential. And we came into the year being convinced, or having already been convinced, that Smith Snowden was a guy who was going to be, maybe in all-conference contention. We found out at Big 12 Media Days he was going to play both sides of the ball. I'm actually glad that there's a lot less of that happening now because Smith, when he's able to focus on just being one of the best nickel corners in the land, he's really good at it. Look no further than the Arizona State game.
Do you think there's a spot where they'd get healthy enough that they might go back to that with Smith? And they've done it less with Lander, too, because it seems like injuries in the secondary especially have been what has caused them to go away from
I think it's a double-edged thing here. I think that the emergence of Daniel Bray has made for, just a reduced need on the offensive side of the ball. Bray is obviously best out of the backfield, but he's great in those those motions, the fly motions, the sweeps, and things like that. And you were using Smith Snowden for some of that, so you don't need to now. Daniel Bray's a better version of that. That's the position he is supposed to play, and you don't have to empty one of your best defensive players' tank any further. So I think that actually is more of the reason why we're not seeing Smith as much on offense, because you don't need him as much on offense because of Daniel Bray's emergence.
That's a good point.
And I also think that when it gets thinner in the defensive backfield, because Smith can play any of those positions. That's one of the great things about Smith Snowden. And obviously he can't only just play the defensive backfield positions, he can play the offensive backfield positions in a pinch. But he can play any of those positions. And as injuries are happening at the safety spot, they're just like, man, okay, our depth at safety is being called upon to start, which means our depth at corner is being called upon to potentially strengthen the safety spot. So Jackson Benny's got to move back over to safety. We were using him at corner, and we were using him at nickel, and so now this Rock Caldwell guy, who we like as a corner and we want to develop as a corner, we're going to put him back there maybe to take some safety reps. So we definitely can't be overworking Smith Snowden.
Jackson Benny, too.
So I think they're like, yeah, all right, let's just chill out on some of this. We saw Jackson Benny on offense against
That's true.
Cincinnati, but it was probably, 4 snaps?
It feels like it's been way less since the Texas Tech game.
Yeah, and the same is true of Lander.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's good. I enjoy that. I think those things are great when we're talking about teams that you can kind of get away with it. When you're talking about going up against your best players, or your best players have to be tasked with stopping another team's best players, as was the case in Arizona State game. Don't put those guys on offense. I think this is a great thing. But back to Sharif Shaw, who, again, he's a big part of why somebody like Smith Snowden can play all those different positions. The special teams are really making plays now. He's got it with the help of Jake Kukas, who is a name people probably don't know all that well. Jake Kukas was special teams coordinator at Weber State, spent a lot of time up at Oregon State. He's an Oregon State alum. He's with the University of Utah. Special teams is his thing. So Jake Kukas is now helping Sharif Shaw, who is still the coordinator by name, to actually, get these special teams dialed in. And maybe that's a big part of why when the defensive backs room had safety question marks, and more importantly, cornerbacks that are prove-it guys, every one of those dudes has stepped up and proven it this year. Cincinnati had 2 wide receivers, and we saw it one time in the game, but 2 wide receivers that can get, they got past Smith Snowden. I'm not saying this to highlight a mistake by Smith Snowden, but I'm telling you, Smith Snowden's one of the best corners that anyone in the Big 12 is going to face in any situation. And Sorsby and his wide receiver connected for an 80-something yard pass, just ran by him. That's not easy for people to do. But we saw Scooby Davis play another great game. And Don Saunders, you know how many times they tried to test number 4 on defense? We talk about number 4 on offense all the time for the University of Utah. That's Devin Dampier. Number 4 on defense is Don Saunders, who's a guy who's a little bit banged up early part of the season. They're really high on his abilities, big body, the exact right prototype build that you want to produce an NFL corner. You know how many times Sorsby tried to get the ball in Don Saunders coverage, and how many times he failed, and how many times Cincinnati failed? That's Sharif Shaw, man. That is Sharif Shaw getting 5 different corners ready to play against at least high quality, but in the best case, ranked teams, and show up big. Shout out to Reef for getting the special teams dialed in, and for getting, more importantly, this group of corners dialed into a point now where you're looking at last week's matchup. And what did we say? Hey, Cincinnati's got some receivers. They pass the ball very, very well. And Sorsby can make you pay if you make mistakes. And guess what? We're going to be playing press man against them because that's what Utah defense does. There's going to be situations where you are out on an island, and if you screw up, that is a touchdown for the opposition. They didn't screw up. They made the plays over and over and over and over again to the tune of Brendan Sorsby having his worst game of the year. Not because he was bad, because you were good. That's why when I look at Utah, number 12 in the country, number 17 in the country right now, when I look at Utah, and I know that there's a college football playoff ranking coming out tonight, right? We know the biases that exist. We know that there are certain conferences that are going to be treated better, and the debate is going to be, well, is this a five-team league, or is this a six-team league in the SEC? We get it, right? And we're going to have to suffer through the conversation that puts BYU and Texas Tech in the driver's seat, and Utah is going to have to wring its hands and sweaty palm it all the way to the end of the season. What does the College Football Playoff Committee think of you? Like, I will say this, spoiler alert, the college football playoff rankings that come out tonight are going to have Notre Dame higher than Utah. Utah's resume is more impressive than Notre Dame's.
Notre Dame, the best part of Notre Dame's resume is the teams they lost to, which is
the quality loss debate makes me sick to my stomach.
And by the way, Utah's, if you're going to go quality losses, Utah's losses are arguably just as good.
They're top 10 teams.
Yeah. Like Miami has been a top 10 team until this week. But, yeah, other than like two top 10 teams versus – and the other one for Notre Dame is Texas A&M top 3. But anyway, it's still stupid because the best team Notre Dame has beaten is what, Boise State?
The FPI, ESPN's FPI, by the way, loves Utah. Did you see this? Spence was talking about it on a show yesterday.
Yeah, they've been like top 10 all year.
They're number 7 in the ESPN FPI. Number 7 in the country. That is not going to be the case in the college football playoff rankings.
I think Connolly's S&P has had them in the top 15, if not top 10 all year too. Like those things that lean on the advanced stats a little bit more have loved Utah all year.
Well, if you watched Utah's games, even the losses, right? And I'm not here to be revisionist. I'm not here to be an apologist. But if you watch Utah's losses to Texas Tech and to BYU, who everyone seems to agree are both top 10 teams right now, and their resumes will tell you are top 10 teams right now, Utah is good enough to beat those teams. Now, credit to BYU, credit to Texas Tech. Utah is good enough to have beaten those teams. Neither of those games were the type where you look at it and say, oh, that's just a better team. There's nothing you can do. That's just a better team than you've got. They're bigger, stronger, faster. They're better coached. Neither of those two teams who deserve their wins over Utah are the type of team that you would say, well, if you play it again, it's not going to matter because the result is going to be the same. Even the biggest Red Raiders fan and the biggest BYU fan in the world will have to acknowledge that, hey, if we play this game 10 times, based on what we saw the first time out, it's like a 60-40 for us, or it's a 50-50. It's a 51-49. The BYU game especially, but even Texas Tech. And I spent an entire week unpacking how you had opportunities in that game to win it. The reason I think of, and the reason I asked the Twitter question I asked today, at Real OC Sports, by the way, the poll is, it's a simple question with a complicated answer and a complicated way to come to your answer. Is there any way for Utah to get into the college football playoff without winning the Big 12 conference? Without even making it to the Big 12 conference championship game? I think I could make an argument where Utah actually doesn't want to make the conference championship game if that's going to be a loss. Now, of course, you want to make the conference championship game, but it might be better for you to not compete in Arlington if that was going to end up being a loss. Of course, we can't read the future, but it's better to finish 10-2 than to finish 10-3, if that makes sense. If the games go the way I think they could go for the University of Utah, and the way that they have gone is when you play top 10 competition, you battle it out, slugfest back and forth, you make too many mistakes, you lose by a narrow margin against BYU, and against Texas Tech, it just got away from you over the course of really 7 minutes of that game. Everybody else, you kick their ass. Every other game Utah's played, it's like, well, why didn't you do this against BYU? Why didn't we see this against Texas Tech? Now, the College Football Playoff Committee is going to sit down, and they're going to look at the Utah resume, and they're going to say, wow, they are blowing teams out. S&P says this, FPI says this. They are blowing these teams out. They smashed Arizona State, who we thought was a top 25 team at the time. They smashed Cincinnati, who we thought was a top 25 team at the time. They've got one of the best offensive lines in their conference, and we think maybe in college football when they're healthy, when they're at their best. This team is going to be in the first college football playoff ranking, kind of where they're at in the A&P. All right? Notre Dame is the only team above you, and I cringe saying this as a guy who likes Notre Dame football, that you could be like, come on, Notre Dame right there, really? Like, the College Football Playoff Committee should be more punitive to Notre Dame and say, guys, your schedule, the big games you had on your schedule, you didn't win.
Oh, but you only lost by one score.
So,
cool.
If you use that logic, Utah has that for their losses, and then they also have more impressive wins, right? So if you want to be an apologist for Notre Dame's losses, you also have to be an apologist for Utah's losses, but you also have to look at it and say, well, Utah's wins are better than Notre Dame's wins. And look, all of this comes out in the wash over the course of the next several weeks, the next 5-6 weeks of college football. But Utah is one of these teams that if you were in a different conference and the outlook was the same, where you don't really have an easy resume builder left on the schedule, but you're a 2-loss team right now. If this was an SEC team or a Big Ten team, James, we'd be talking about, well, you win out and it's an at-large bid. Don't worry about it. I know that the tiebreakers, you screwed yourself with a couple of these losses, but you are an at-large team if you finish 10-2. If Utah was in a different conference, it would not be a question. It would be a damn guarantee if this was a Big Ten or an SEC team. And when you compare where they're at with some of those other teams that are going to be in that conversation, if you tune in today to college football radio across the American South, they're having that conversation. They're talking about that with teams that don't really have a shot at making their conference championship game. If you're an SEC radio station right now, you're saying A&M's going to be in the playoff, Alabama's going to be in the playoff, Georgia's going to be in the playoff, Ole Miss probably has another loss on their record. They're going to be in the playoff at 10-2. Oklahoma's going to be in the playoff. You're having these conversations, right? Texas has a shot to be in the college football playoff. Why are they having those conversations about Vanderbilt, but not Utah?
I'll give you a more egregious one. Missouri has not beaten a good team. Kansas is their best win. I guess Kansas is, it's not fair to say they're not a good team, but Kansas is barely over 500, and that's their best win. And yet they're talked about in the same way that you're talking about. Hey, they're outside the picture now, but they win out, they'll get in. And look, the rest of their schedule, it's an SEC schedule, so they'll have chances to, if they do win out, they'll have a better resume, a much better resume than they have now. But like as of right now, you should not be talking about team like Missouri like that and not talk about Utah like that when Utah has had a more impressive resume up to this point and probably will end up with a more impressive resume.
By the way, this applies to BYU even if they don't win the conference championship. Like if BYU's season goes worst case scenario the rest of the way, where they lose to Texas Tech and they lose to Cincinnati and they win those other games.
TCU is going to be a tougher one too. But
let's say they beat TCU. They end up as a 10-2 regular season team. I think in that case they don't make the conference championship game. If they lose
it
to
might
Cincinnati,
be right. It'd probably be Texas Tech and Cincinnati. Yeah,
right. Well, BYU. Why would BYU? I guess the timeliness of the losses affects the argument as well. But why would BYU not still be in the conversation? Then you're going to get into the minutia, and you're going to say, well, freshman quarterback. If they have those losses, mistakes were probably made. Blah blah blah. I don't want to be the guy who's drinking the Crimson Kool-Aid all the time and saying, well, why can't we be a college football playoff team? Except I watch this team play, and I have to ask myself, why can't you be an at-large bid? If Oklahoma's in the conversation, why aren't you? Well, okay, it's Oklahoma. But to your point, James, if Missouri gets to have their name mentioned, why can't you? If Texas at 2 losses, and most importantly and most egregiously, if Vanderbilt has still a path to the college football playoff by beating Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee, Vanderbilt, if they could be in the conversation for an at-large bid, which absolutely they will if they finish out, because they have a win against LSU.
Who's, by the way, terrible.
You know how terrible LSU is?
They fired their coach.
They fired their coach.
And you know who? I'm gonna have to do a victory dance around Heisman ceremony here. But remember me saying Garrett Nussmeier really a top 5 Heisman quarterback?
Yeah. Hey.
Maybe that was Brian Kelly and that whole thing. Maybe he'll have a much better end of the season. But like so far, it's been Garrett Nussmeier, Heisman Trophy quarterback.
The early season Heisman Trophy odds are pretty laughable at this moment.
That one I saw coming. The others, like I mean,
Fernando
no one saw Arch
Mendoza,
Manning coming. Yeah,
Fernando Mendoza is going to win the Heisman Trophy, and everyone's going to be like, "Well, that was not on my bingo card."
Yeah, seriously.
Anyway.
There are years like that though. Like so many of those years, you're like, "Oh, why didn't we think this guy was good?"
So I put the question out on Twitter at Real OC Sports, 877-353-0700. I'd love for you to respond there as well. Do you have any hope as a Utah football fan the Utes get into the college football playoff if they do not win the conference championship? And the 2 answers are an at-large bid could happen or winning the Big 12 is your only chance. Right now, it is a dang near even split. 51-49, James, on the responses right now. 49% and 49% of the respondents saying at-large could happen. 51% winning the Big 12 is your only chance. Again, that's still in the realm of possibility for Utah. But I think that actually the better case, the more likely scenario is that Utah finishes 10-2 but still loses the tiebreakers, because I don't think BYU is going to lose to Tech and Cincinnati. I don't. I think BYU's in the conference championship game, and I don't think the Red Raiders have another loss.
No, I mean, maybe they lose to BYU, but they got to have one more after that for Utah to overtake them because of the head-to-head tiebreaker.
That's right. So I think it's
maybe
more
West
likely.
Virginia. Maybe West Virginia shocks us again the final week of the season. We hope so, right?
Like, just to refresh your memory before we take a break, Texas Tech, who you need to lose 2 more times, has BYU, UCF, West Virginia. Okay? BYU, who you need to see lose 3 times to beat them in the tiebreaker, right? BYU, for the remainder of their year, has Texas Tech, TCU, Cincinnati, UCF.
I feel like it's more likely, it sounds crazy with the way BYU has played and the fact that they're undefeated and Tech has one loss, you need less losses. But it feels like it's more likely that BYU loses 3 than Tech loses 2. But I don't think either happens.
I don't think either of those things happen. I actually don't disagree with you because the injuries that have piled up at BYU are pretty costly.
Well, and as good as they've been, you still, and as good as Bear has been, you still just wonder if there's going to be a game where he looks like a true freshman the whole game. I don't think there will be at this point. I think we've got enough sample size to say that's not happening. But you don't know if it's going to happen in the next 3 weeks. That could still happen.
I think that could happen against Texas Tech if LJ Martin is not healthy enough to play or healthy enough to be super effective. Because right now, BYU sitting undefeated has not had a situation where they've had to throw their way to wins, right? I think Texas Tech could make you do that. They could take away the QB run game pretty effectively, and I think that they could potentially force a couple turnovers so where you have to play from behind, you have to throw. In that case, all right. But can TCU do that? Can the Cincinnati team we watched against Utah do that? Absolutely not. Can UCF? I mean, if BYU falls asleep at the wheel. Anyway, 877-353-0700. Are we doing this? Are we holding out hope that an at-large bid is possible if Utah wins out? Now, it's still an if you win out, right? There's a lot of work left to be done. 3 dangerous games in front of you. Kansas State, no slouch. Baylor, no slouch. Kansas, no slouch. But if you play the way we saw this team play against Arizona State and against Cincinnati, perhaps the most complete game of the season, Utah, that version of Utah, is a college football playoff worthy team. Are you going to be that version? Are you going to show the committee that you are that version of yourselves for the next 4 weeks? We'll see. Late as usual. Got to take a quick one here. We'll come back with Gordy Chiesa. Utah Jazz, hey, if you thought they were tanking, they're not. This team's competing. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
Peace out.
Let's get the latest on the Utah Jazz with former Jazz assistant coach Gordy Chiesa. He's forgotten more about the NBA than any of us will ever know.
Let's not get crazy.
Come for the hoops talk, stay for his list of the day.
My list today.
Here's OC with basketball savant Gordy Chiesa on the Sean O'Connell Show.
Oh, welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in our NBA guru, Gordy Chiesa. Look, a lot of us scoffed when, before the season began, Gordy Chiesa was like, hey, this Jazz team is going to be a lot better than people think it is. And I know we're very, very early. I know you're only 7 games in, but this team is competing, and there's some bright spots. We'll talk about that and much more in the NBA world with Gordy, who joins us now. Gordy, welcome. How are you, sir?
Sean, I'm doing fine. Your point is well taken as far as there's many bright spots for the Jazz, and last night's game was a classic example of grittiness in Beantown, where the Jazz refused to lose.
Refused to lose to the tune of a 38-point third quarter. Gordy, there's been a couple of these already in the early goings of this NBA season where the Jazz just have these monster quarters. Tell me what is said at a halftime to spark something like that.
Well, the first thing is always they go back to fundamentals. And so in that third quarter, the Jazz moved the ball beautifully. They were able to get to the foul line, and their help-to-help defense was physical, and they just pounded the Celts on the boards. And throughout the game, you had the feeling the Jazz are much more physical. In the game last night, Sean, the Jazz win by 1 at the buzzer on a Yusuf Nurkic, I call it a bully rebound weight room basket to win it. The Jazz beat the Celts on the boards 55 to 36, plus 19 to win by 2. And that's what was said at halftime. Keep going to the boards, keep executing, and more importantly, play with confidence.
31 points from Keontae George. How does that happen?
What happens, one, is that he's maturing. This is his third year in the NBA, and he's really learning how to be a point guard and also how to score. And so your job as a point guard in the NBA is to get everybody involved, but within that, you also get yourself going offensively. And right now he's playing at a really wonderful level for him as far as his pace. So 31 points last night, 9 for 16 from the field, 9 from 11 from the three-throw line. And Sean, he's averaging a team best 9.6 free-throw attempts per game, which tells us that he's learning how to body lean in the lane to create fouls, and I call him a wiggle finisher, where he wiggles in the lane to finish. And that's been his biggest adjustment as far as finishing in deep, ball distributing, and passing really at the right time, on targets. He's averaging also 8.1 assists per game, which is really good for us. So he's passing the ball, he's scoring it, and he's doing it with leadership.
There was a time when plenty of us thought that Kevin Love's time with the Utah Jazz would be like a contract buyout situation. He wouldn't actually report to training camp. He wouldn't actually play. He showed some veteran flashes, if it's fair to say that. 17 minutes. He had 7 rebounds, and at one point, everyone remembers that he was like the rebounding king of the NBA. Added 3 assists to it. Kevin Love, I guess it's just a larger contribution than I really ever expected to see from him, and that's to not even mention his veteran leadership and the professionalism he can demonstrate for these guys.
Yeah, very much. And add to that is that he throws one of the best ever history of basketball outlet passes. If he gets that rebound, he looks up naturally and throws a rocket pass on time, on target down the floor. He's a veteran. He wants to be here in the present tense. He enjoys his younger teammates as far as their enthusiasm, and he's been a major contributor of what he adds to the group. And this is his 18th year in the NBA. And so he understands totally how this works, whether he plays off the bench or he misses 2 games as far as not being in rotation, he's willing to accept it. It's a fun guy to be around, and it just shows you that when you're focused and when you do have skills, there's a joy of playing, and that's Kevin Love right now.
I know it's not a Jazz question or even an NBA question, but a guy you know well, Alex Jensen, got his first head coaching win at his alma mater last night. And, you got to hit all these little milestones as you take over a program to get the win in his first outing, his first regular season outing as a head coach. That's something I imagine he'll probably remember, his family will probably remember. How significant is it to get that first win when, you're the one with the keys?
It shows you that your all the career arc as far as moving up in the ranks, that it was worth it, and that you were able to get your first win, and it gives yourself a inner confidence and peace, and also for your staff, they see you visually getting that first victory, and from a team standpoint, there's a higher belief that our main guy is able to help us win, and we're going to continue doing this. So it's impressive.
Back to the NBA, and more specifically, this Utah Jazz team. Is Ace Bailey developing at the pace you thought he would develop?
Yes, because he's young. You see, he's a major young talent, and his name's been mentioned for the last 2 years. And so in the beginning, and the answer is he's a major young talent. But let's not forget is that he's only 19 years. He turns 20 next August 13th. And this NBA is a man's league. Even though you might play well in spurts when you're a rookie or a second-year player, the reality is that these guys coming at you every single night. So in Jazz basketball, they're using him wisely where they're playing off the bench. He's playing much better defense the last 2 games, and he's much more more alert as far as shot selection. So that is good. And so he'll play a lot more minutes as the weeks and months go on because he's absolutely the future. And everyone loves his talent. Now, the question is always this: when does that talent help his game, which gains winning? And that's the question that everyone has to ask themselves as far as his development. But he's right on point right now.
Our NBA guru, Gordy Chiesa, is brought to you by Aladdin Industries. We got him for a couple more minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show. So it's the Pistons up next. What do you expect from that matchup?
Hard fought. The Pistons are a serious team. Their main guy is Cade Cunningham. So now a good matchup. Keontae George versus Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham was the first pick of the draft. He's averaging 23.6 points per game, 9.6 assists, and 5.6 rebounds. So he's got a tremendous all-around game. When I say first pick of the draft, that was back in 2021 out of Oklahoma State University. And by another young guy is Jalen Duren. This guy's averaging 17.3 points per game, 9.9 rebounds, 1.4 blocks. And speaking of blocks, the Pistons are first in the NBA in block shots. And also they commit the most fouls in the NBA per game at 26.3. So their MO is physicality. Last night, the Jazz punked the Celtics at TD Garden on the boards, and just generally speaking, they're more physical. Now they're playing probably the most physical team in the NBA. So now, from Jazz basketball standpoint, can they hold in there and use their physicality without dramatically fouling, and can they create opportunities where they expose the Pistons' lack of measurement of fouling? So again, Larry Markin, head and shoulder fake. Yusuf Nurkic, can he put a body on Jalen Duren in the game? Can Keontae George score and getting early foul trouble the defensive players of meaning Cade Cunningham and Yusuf? Be a really good matchup, early test for the Jazz. Down season, the Jazz only had 7 road wins. So right now they have 1 already. They're hoping to get 2 tomorrow night in Motown. Sean, it's interesting in the NBA. We talked last night, Beantown, meaning Boston. Now they go to Motown.
What's your favorite Motown act, Gordy? In the height of Detroit's musical scene, what was your favorite?
Oh, Sean, I'm showing my age now, so you have to look it up. I say it's a girls group named Martha and Vandellas. Sean, in my younger days, I used to clean my house playing Martha Mandela tunes.
I love that. We're gonna have to put together a playlist for the next time you come on.
It's a girl group, those girl groups, back in the 60s. You heard of them. I know you're a young fella. I know you're born in 83, so I know you're a young guy. But back in the 60s, the Motown was this unbelievable juggernaut of music industry, both men and women, and it created such a unbelievable, lasting impression on all of us. And speaking of impressions, Sean, let's go to our list right now.
Let's do it.
And this list, Keontae George could be on this season. Like, it's possible. Here we go. The Most Improved Player Award winners the last 10 years. The award is given to the player who has shown the most meaningful progress during the regular season compared to previous recent campaigns. It's really a player development award validating skills, effort, and team success. All right, the last 10 years. Back in 2016, C.J. McCollum of then the Trailblazers. 2017, Giannis of the Bucks. 2018, Victor Oladipo of the Pacers. 2019, Pascal Siakam of the Raptors. 2020, the pandemic year, the bubble, Brandon Ingram of the Pelicans. 2021, Julius Randle of the Knicks. 2022, John Morant of the Grizzlies. 2023, Jazz owned Larry Marketing of the Jazz, and he's the only Jazz player ever to win as a member of the Jazz, meaning what? The most improved player. 2024, Therese Maxey of the 76ers, and last year, Dyson Daniels of the Atlanta Hawks won the award. Kevin Love was most improved player presently on the Jazz. He was the most improved player back in 2011 when he played for the Timberwolves. All right, Sean, quickly. This is just my arbitrary list of the 5 candidates of this year could be winning the most improved player of the year. They are Victor Wembanyama, Amin Thompson of the Rockets, Austin Reeves of the Lakers, Josh Giddey of the Bulls, and Keontae George of the Jazz.
I like it.
Yes. So Wembanyama could win, Sean, Defensive Player of the Year. He could win the Most Improved Player. And the MVP, he'll be in the top 4 as far as voting this year.
I think he should be disqualified from Most Improved Player because he's always when you show up in the league and you're already great, I think you should not be allowed to win Most Improved Player. That's for the Austin Reeves type players, in my opinion.
Oh, no, it could be, yeah, as far as being undrafted. But he made such a quantum jump. As great as he was last season before he got hurt with the blood clot in his shoulder, his numbers right now, shots, rebounding, block shots, three-point shooting, etc., are really a tremendous improvement. It's really a team award as far as when you get to be most improved player. That means the coaching staff and you as an individual, you work together in harmony to get that player better. So it's really a fun award to have, and Larry Markin did it in 2023. Let's hope Keontae George can do it in 2026.
Gordy, you're the man. Talk with you on Thursday, sir.
Thanks, Sean. Peace out.
Gordy Chiesa, our resident NBA guru. Martha and the Vandellas, James. We're going to have to get some of that music. Heat Wave, Dancing in the Street. Okay, we know some of their songs.
I was going to say I did not know them by their name, but we know those songs. Yeah, absolutely.
Those are 2 of their top 10 singles. So we'll get some of that for Gordy next time he joins us. That conversation brought to you by friends at Aladdin Industries, your Velux dealer here in Salt Lake City. All right, the hot lunch is next, and there are some trades, big-time trades happening in the National Football League. Before we take a break, we like to make sure that we give you people some giveaways. Shout out to our prize department. Is that promotions?
Yeah, that's Alyssa now heading up promotion. Shout out to Alyssa.
Alyssa, you're doing a phenomenal job because this is one of the coolest things. I don't know why I love so much the ability to go see a movie before it actually comes out. To be able to offer that to our listeners, I feel like is a really great prize. The Four Horsemen are back. If you've watched the Now You See Me franchise, you know that this one is supposed to be like the big blow it out banger. Now You See Me, Now You Don't, coming to theaters, and ESPN 700 has your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to an advanced screening. That's November 10th at Megaplex Valley Fair. So out in West Valley at the Valley Fair Mall. Tune in during Topical Trivia. That's coming up at about 1:45. We will give you a chance to win a 4-pack of sneak preview tickets to Now You See Me, Now You Don't. I like that franchise.
And you can maybe you sit next to a movie critic and you can just bug them the whole time by whispering in their ear.
Where do you stand on magicians and like mentalist illusionists?
I'm not that into it.
Like I'm way too into it for a 42-year-old man to be.
Like I've enjoyed. I've been to maybe 2 magic shows. I enjoyed it, but it's not something like, oh, magic shows in town, I got to go see that.
Whereas with professional wrestling, I have a really hard time suspending my disbelief. When it comes to magicians, it's quite easy for me to just. I'm like, that's real magic.
Yep,
he's magic. He's a wizard. He's not even a magician. He's an actual wizard.
See, I think magicians and magic shows for me are the same thing as like horse racing is for me, where it's like if it's a movie or a TV show about people doing that kind of stuff, there's a lot of good movies and TV shows about that, but the real show, I'm not as into it.
Like,
same thing with horse racing.
I don't want to watch The Preakness, but I will watch Seabiscuit starring Tobey Maguire.
Or Secretariat was also a good one. Like, there's
right.
been a lot of really good horse racing movies. I'd rather watch the horse racing movies than the actual horse racing.
All right, well, then
So I'm into the Now You See Me stuff.
Maybe you can win yourself a 4-pack of tickets. Yeah. Just kidding. James is disqualified. Hot Lunch is next.
How dare you?
On Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, the hot lunch today is news in the football world. I got to get this out of the way. Reminder for everyone, the 22 Forever Coat Drive is happening Wednesday from 5:45 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Spence and Cleon Eccles Football Center at the University of Utah. The Coat Drive, this is Donna Lowe's Coat Drive. I know all of you have lightly used, gently used, or brand new coats, jackets, cold weather gear that you could part with. Instead of taking it down to Goodwill or to the DI or whatever, bring it to the Coat Drive. The 22 Forever Coat Drive is happening at the football facility tomorrow. That's Wednesday, 5:45 to 7 p.m. Head up there, help them out with some donations. All right? Our final ice cream cake winner was Dave, who guessed the Utah-Cincinnati score pretty well, 37-24. James, actually, your score prediction was the most accurate. You could have stolen that Baskin-Robbins cake for yourself. You're a man of supreme ethics for not doing that.
Yeah, Dave, maybe I'm going to claim your cake. No, for listeners of the Ute Game Day pregame show with Porter Larson, Trevor Riley, I was asked what I thought the score would be, and I was going, I'm hearing UOC say this is a game with matchups that Utah can exploit, especially in the running game. Porter was doing the same thing that whole show. Trevor was saying, man, that's crazy that you think they can exploit it to that extent, though, because it's the top 20 team in the country, which I'm inclined to think that way too. But after hearing both of you and seeing other people online saying that,
got a little loose with it.
I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go bold again because I said 41-20 over Colorado. I'm like, I'm gonna go 42-14 over the 17th ranked team in the country. 45-14 final score. So I feel pretty good about that, yeah.
Yeah, well.
But shout out to Dave, who won the actual contest. The other scores were like one-score games. Those are the other score predictions. Dave, the only one with a double-digit prediction, so he got the closest at 37-24 to the 45-14 final score.
You love to see it. Your boldness has been rewarded.
Yeah.
Dave. Shout out to Baskin-Robbins for hooking it up. The hot lunch today provided by Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. Carne asada tacos, street taco style with the small double corn tortilla. Perfectly cooked carne asada, slice of avocado for each, little pico, some cheese. Excellent. And not all that heavy of a meal.
No, it was really good.
Yeah. So if you're trying to watch the waistline, so to speak, you don't want to necessarily go get some fried food or a big burger with tater tots or something like that. This is an excellent option that's still hearty and is going to satiate that hunger, but without leaving you feeling like you just, have the big gut bomb. So little something for everyone on that Big Willie's menu. As I've said many, many times, make sure that you tell them OC sent you when you swing on down to 1717 South Main.
OC, real quick, because I just saw Pat McAfee end his show with talking about game day at the University of Utah. And it's kind of interesting. He said that he put it on X, which I had no idea, put it on X/Twitter, and ruffled some feathers with his new bosses at ESPN. Like, hey, you're not allowed to stream our show on X, and apparently he did anyway. And
so this is a very Pat McAfee thing.
Yeah, so anyway, but that aside, is it Big Noon that's going to be at BYU Texas Tech this week?
It's game day.
It's game day. Do we see, because he made a whole presentation of like, I'm wearing blue, so I better take it off at the Utah one. Do you think he wears red on purpose so that he can take his shirt off? Well, I guess it's at Texas Tech. But
it's at Texas Tech.
So I guess so. If he wears red, anyway, maybe it wouldn't work.
Well, I mean, that would actually make it better because if he wore red, everyone in Lubbock could be like, heck yeah, he's going to pick Texas Tech.
And then he starts talking about BYU. Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen, if you're going to go shirtless, you should have the pick painted on your chest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You don't have the headgear anymore because they're not going to do Corso's
You can't steal Corso's bit. No.
With Corso not being there.
That's what that's what Pat McAfee's bit should be. If he's the guy who likes taking his shirt off, and he's a weird exhibitionist that way. He's taken his shirt off like 4 times already on game day.
Yeah.
So just paint your chest with your pick.
Hence the great sign, "Moms for McAfee."
There you go.
I mean, I'm sure it's because of how much he likes to take his shirt off. But anyway, that was also very interesting to hear him say, "Yeah, we have rights to post clips of the show, so we decided we could post the whole we could stream the whole show on X."
This is what Pat McAfee does. Is he gets this big old fat contract, right, with whoever's going to distribute his content, and then he ruffles every single feather in the front office there. He does what he wants to do. It's why he is Pat McAfee. And it's one of those things where he'd rather ask forgiveness than permission, but he doesn't even ask forgiveness. He's just like, what are you talking about? I'm putting your content out in the world. What's wrong with this? And they're like, well, yeah, but you're doing it for free, and we have sponsors and things. Oh, well, this is what Pat McAfee does, and it has worked to the tune of he and all of his close friends, all the guys that work on his show, being massively successful, multi-millionaires at this point. So he ain't going to change it. I don't think you should ask him to.
Yeah.
All right. Jeff Schwartz joins us next. We had to flip-flop Jerem Jordan for red and blue and Jeff Schwartz because that's just the way it goes sometimes. So Jeff Schwartz will join us next on Utah's #1 sports talk. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Hour number 2 of the Sean O'Connell Show. We welcome in Jeff Schwartz, longtime NFL veteran, college football and betting insider, my longtime former co-host on Pac-12 Today. Jeff, how are you?
I'm good. A lot of madness in the NFL right now with these trades. It's crazy.
Yeah, Sauce Gardner, the biggest name that I've seen move so far.
No, it's been someone else on the Jets that got moved like 1 minute ago.
Who was it?
Quinn Williams to the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, okay. So the Jets just fire sailing everybody less than 2 hours away from the trade deadline. All right, let's talk about Quinn and Williams to the Cowboys. Can he solve their woes?
I don't know what they're doing. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me. They're not Quinn Williams and Logan Wilson away from winning, in my opinion. And they had Micah Parsons and got rid of it. I just don't. Their roster construction does not make sense to me. But Jerry, I guess, needs to feel alive. I don't know. I was talking about this morning on my podcast. My wife just for some reason thinks that she needs to always be doing something to feel alive. She just can't sit in her place, and be content. So she's always doing something, right? There's always up to something, always buying something, just always doing something. And I feel like Jerry Jones is the same thing. He just can't be content just being in the place he's in and thinking about the future and how to make this team better in the future. I don't think these moves do anything significant for them this season, next season. The move would have been just keeping Micah Parsons. I think Jerry just is addicted to the rush of instant gratification. This is what this is right here.
I guess. Very strange. What about Sauce Gardner? Is he worth a receiver and 2 first-round picks?
No. But the Colts are going all in. Here's the thing about the Colts. What's interesting, Sean, is does this mean that they're going to give Daniel Jones an extension? Because they're now down 2 first-round picks for the next 2 seasons. And Jones on a 1-year deal. And that, to me, is the biggest story here because, look, Sauce may or may not make them a Super Bowl contender. I don't know. But they're committing now. I think with this move, they're committing to Jones for the long term, which it would scare me. Look, I get it. After the way the season started, you want to give him, you want to keep rolling this way. But we just saw a tiny bit of regression in Pittsburgh last week. We've seen his career. This is why Sam Darnold's not a Viking, because of how poorly it ended last season. Started well, ended poorly. Are they going to pay Daniel Jones to be their starting quarterback for the next 2 or 3 years? I think that would be a mistake. So that's where my head goes here is what's the Colts move at quarterback now? Do they really think that they're one Daniel Jones away or one Sauce Gardner away from winning a championship? I just don't see it that way.
Who else is going to make a move before these next 2 hours are up?
Hopefully the Chiefs, but I doubt it. These prices are getting pretty expensive now, and I think that some of the better teams are just sitting it out. They don't have a ton of draft picks, and it's getting to the point where it's expensive, and they're just not going to do it. There might be some little moves made that I just think that you find a unique situation where the Jets are at full fire sale, which they should be, in my opinion, and they're selling off. You have to find a team that's willing to do that.
Former Weber State Wildcat Rashid Shaheed got traded from the Saints to the Seahawks. Are you a believer in Seattle?
I knew I didn't like that guy for a reason. No, I have no idea.
Rashid
Weber
is awesome.
State. I don't know. He's look, I think the same thing. So the reason why people weren't in on Darnold in this offseason was the issues they had in those 2 big games, right? In those 2 biggest games of the year, he did not play well. And I think a lot of people are waiting for that to happen again this season. Yes, we saw last year that you can play well, not when it didn't matter, but in sort of the games that weren't the brightest. And then the end of the season, the 2 brightest games of the year, you didn't play very well. I think a lot of people are looking at that and thinking to themselves, is this going to happen again in Seattle, right? Where he plays well in these games that they matter, but they're not the ones where you make your money. and then is he going to give us the same performance in the playoffs essentially, or in the last couple weeks of the season? I think that's what everyone's waiting for. Other than that, I mean, I think that Seattle is very sustainable. They're well coached. I like their offensive design. They can't run the ball, which is what it is, but they can pass the ball at a high level. I love their formation usage. I love their tight end personnel packages. I like a lot about them, Sean. I think a lot of us are just waiting to see if Darnold is going to have sort of that Darnold-esque moment.
What is the reaction? We didn't get to this on the show yesterday because we had a shortened show with women's basketball, but what is the reaction from the rest of a team, the rest of a roster, when your young starting quarterback goes down with a really nasty injury because he's still in the fourth quarter of a blowout? I mean, in hindsight, you can always be like, well, yeah, why is he in there? But I don't know. Like, we don't see in NFL games all the time, like, oh, we're capitulating and we're pulling the starters. That's more of a college football thing
than
it is an NFL thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. It doesn't happen in college very often. And I think that, look, obviously in hindsight, you would say, hey, you should have put Daniels, but think about where the Commanders are at. They're not coming back from down 38-7, but we did just see the Broncos score 33 points in the fourth quarter to win a game, right? So, like, in the back of their mind, I'm sure they were like, we're not going to win, but we might win, Sean. But more importantly, I think the Commanders offensively this year have been a little bit inconsistent. Part of that is they haven't had their starting quarterback, and now he's back, and it wasn't a great game. And you have an opportunity to end the game with a couple very positive drives to make you sort of feel better, I think, heading into next week. And that was the goal, right? It's to sort of just get a little bit of positive vibes heading into next week. And I've been in that spot before, and I have no problem playing the quarterback. Look, we can't be afraid of injuries, in my opinion, in this sport. You can't play scared. You can't coach scared. And it didn't work out. It's a freak injury. You know what's interesting about Jaden Daniels too, Sean, is so everyone's like, well, he's injury prone. Of course. I'm like, well, we covered him in college. He wasn't in college. We remember talking to Herm Edwards about this in 2019. Like, dude, this guy is 27 pounds. How are you protecting him? He's like, it's what he is. And he was never hurt in college. Gets the NFL. A little bit of a rib thing last year, but like nothing crazy, and all of a sudden this year pretty hurt. And I guess the argument is, well, a bigger quarterback probably doesn't get thrown to the ground quite as violently, which is certainly fair to say. But Daniels had not been injury prone. So all the people that are like taking victory laps about like, oh, I knew it. I'm like, knew what? He hasn't been injury prone.
Yeah, that was something we've talked about a lot when he was in his first and second year in college football. But it hasn't really been something that's followed him. So it's fun to be right, though, and you can always make up something that proves that you're right, I suppose.
Yeah. You see I got Old Takes Exposed this weekend?
I did see that.
But they didn't tag me.
That just means you're a big enough deal that people are paying attention to your tweets.
But, like, it was a tweet from a month ago. And my only thing was, like, if you're going to do that, like, tag me in it. Like give me, like, because, when you tag me, people will go to my page and be like, oh, I like this Schwartz guy. Like, there'll be some stuff they like.
Or they'll hate
start
follow
following
you
me.
like I do.
Go, what?
Or they'll hate follow you like I do.
Yeah, which is certainly a fair thing to do. But I think that, like, tag me in it. I said it. I know I'm not. I didn't delete. I think they're worried that people delete those tweets. I'm not a tweet deleter. I'm not deleting my tweet. I said it.
Did you say it because you love Mario Cristobal? Is that why you said it?
No, I thought they were legitimately the best team in the country at the time. That was like they had just I think beaten Florida State. Like they were playing good football. They just Mario's now 4-11 in November as a Miami head coach. Not great.
Oof. I didn't know that stat. That is a bad stat. Let's talk about Utah football because that's what everyone wants.
Big win.
Big win against Cincinnati. Impressive, really, in all three phases. It was their most complete game of the year, and they swap. They get the 17th ranking. Cincinnati drops. The conversation, the question is like, you have to rely on these tiebreakers now to get into a conference championship game.
Yeah.
And obviously you got to win out, and they're far from gimmies. It's Baylor, Kansas State, Kansas that you still have on your schedule. But if you perform like that, you should be able to smoke those teams.
Yeah.
And if you perform like that, you're probably one of the best teams in the Big 12 Conference, but you still might not make it into the conference championship game.
So I bet on Utah Saturday to win the Big 12 at like 10-1, 12-1. Mostly because I think if they played Texas Tech again, they would play much better, and I think it's a 50-50 type chance. And you look at the rest of your schedule, should win all 4 games. It's 4 or 3 games. You should win.
Left. Yeah, bye
3
week
left. You
this
should
week.
win those 3. And then BYU, I think, is sort of fugazi. They're going to lose this weekend, in my opinion. You have to lose twice, obviously, right? Unless Tech loses twice. And then you'll have a chance to rematch against Texas Tech. I think you'll have a better opportunity. Your quarterback will be healthy. You know, in a rematch, I always feel that the loser has the schematic advantage, right? They have an opportunity to change what they did the first game. Like, why would Texas Tech change anything? There's no reason to. They won the first game. So I like your chances if you play them again. So I think it's a fair number for what I think is going to be a conference that sort of eats itself up, and Utah's in a good spot right now. Offensively, defensively, sort of peaking at the right time.
Is there any hope for Utah, or really, I guess, any other team in the Big 12 Conference to be like an at-large college football playoff team without being in that conference championship game even?
I don't think so. But this is a really wonky year because right now you think about it. If Oregon takes one more loss, right, they play Iowa this weekend and USC and Washington at the end of the season. If they lose one game, they're probably out. They don't have any quality. We have no quality wins. I don't know if we're in, right? So that's 2 Big Ten teams. ACC right now, we talked. I don't think me and you talked about this, but it was certainly plausible that the ACC were getting 3 teams in before last weekend. Not anymore. Not going to 3 teams anymore, Sean. So they might be one team, a 1-bid league, right? And SEC is probably getting 5 in that scenario. But it does feel like, like the Big 12 is sort of, a lot of teams are sort of lurking right there with the opportunity to maybe take advantage of some chaos in the SEC or in the in the ACC or in the Big 10. Like it's possible. It feels not very likely, but it has been a weird year, and I wouldn't put anything past this type of year we've had.
Well, I was looking at, kind of where it sits right now. And obviously there's plenty of football left to play, and this is all just sports talk radio. It really comes out in the wash. But I'm looking at my TV right now, and everyone's like, what about Vanderbilt? And I'm like, okay, I get it. They're a 2-loss team. They're in the SEC. They've had some success. But if people are going to talk about Vanderbilt as an at-large type team, don't you have to talk about Utah as an at-large type team?
Yeah.
I mean, Utah's been longer established and more successful under Kyle Whittingham than Vanderbilt, for hell's sake.
Yeah. So Vanderbilt has like the SEC, the SEC bias
Well, of course, but why do they? Because they were the butt of every SEC joke 2 seasons ago.
Sorry about that. My headset's been like really odd, and I don't. Did that go out over the air? Did you hear that?
I hear like a little, like you're moving your microphone, maybe.
I'm not.
Oh.
It's just like it's having an issue, and I don't know like how to fix it without buying like all new stuff.
Oh, all right.
Kind of want to buy all new stuff.
It sounds good now.
Okay. So what's going to piss off everyone is Texas, all right? If they beat Georgia, they'll have 2 losses with a win at Georgia. They'll have beaten Vandy. And if they go to A&M in last week's season, whatever it is, week 14, and lose by 3, they'll be 9-3. Now, they win both games, they're absolutely in at 10-2. But there's a real chance 9-3 Texas gets in with a win over Georgia, and then they can lose to A&M and probably get in. They can't do it opposite. They can't lose to Georgia and then get in with an A&M win. But, Sean, I think it's likely that we're looking at deciding whether 9-3 Texas is in over a 2-loss Big 12 team, a 2-loss Big 10 team. I'm curious to see how that plays itself out. It's if they beat Georgia, it's very likely. It's a likely thing that could happen.
That's gross, but I don't disagree with any of the points that you're making. Jeff Schwartz is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. The coaching care. You join us once a week, and I feel like every single week I'm going to have to be like, hey, what about this other big job that opened up this week? It'll probably happen that way to the end of the season. And, Auburn is open now. We're talking about an absolutely insane offseason cycle. The rumor mill's already spinning. I had people coming up to me at the Utah game on Saturday. Hey, is it true that Arkansas was in town on their private jet to interview Jay Hill, the defensive coordinator at BYU?
Is this possible?
Like, I don't know. Arkansas doesn't. Jerry Jones doesn't call me about his private jet usage, but
I've seen Kalani Sitake's name be mentioned at random stuff. It's going to be interesting because we talk about this a lot. Like, there's just a downwind of all this, right? Where one move creates another 4 positions to fill. And that's what I find so fascinating is, like, you're going to have a lot of coaches that will have to deny a lot of rumors, and it's going to be hard to do that. And you might say no to a job, and then another job opens up that you didn't think was available. And then all of a sudden that, now you feel like that's a job you want to have, and you've already said no. You told your family, I'm not going anywhere. I don't want that job. It's like, well, then the other job opens up, and you might want that job, right, Sean? Like, it's just this downward effect. You're going to have coaches in FCS that move up, a lot of coaches that move up, and there'll be a lot of opportunity for people that probably weren't going to have it for a while, and a lot of them probably won't be ready. That's just the nature of what this cycle is going to bring for a lot of these programs. So a lot of programs are going to whiff. They're going to miss out on their number one target, and they have to go to plan B and C, and their fan bases probably won't like it. But that's life in the big leagues, man. Like, you have a certain number of jobs. The LSU job, right? So obviously we always agreed that's a really important job and a big job. But the governor being so forceful in that press conference, I know governors might be more involved than we think. But, like, do you really want to, is that you really want to go to LSU and, like, it's, just like, there's all this little drama around everything. Lane Kiffin going to leave Ole Miss. I mean, there's just so much drama around this. It actually probably feels nicer for Utah to not have to deal with that, right? In Oregon, I think Lanning's well past being in these coaching searches at the moment. Like, it's nice just to sit and watch everyone else have these issues and not have to worry about our teams.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Lanning's agent is probably enjoying the idea that he's going to be called for every single thing, and he can go to Phil Knight and be like, hey, they'll pay him $12 million to go there or something. But,
I mean, the rumor is that he has some Nike deal, some side Nike deal, like that. Like, that's why he's very content in Oregon.
I heard Josh Pate talking about that. Like, he's got.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's got some equity situation where his salary is one thing, but he's just going to get Nike stock for the rest of his life and doesn't have to worry about anything.
I've never asked anyone about this, but that seems to be the case. Like, that seems to be what people believe. And I haven't been able to actually get an answer on this. To be fair, I haven't also really tried to get an answer, but it does feel like that is what everyone says is going to happen, or is happening, and that's why he won't leave Oregon. But also, look, I know fans hate when I say this because I said it on the internet and people were like, oh, LOL. But the truth is 2026 was always the year for Oregon. If you look at the way the roster is built, the construction of their roster, this was the time. And I've said this for many years. It takes new coaches, brand new coaches, mostly 6 years to win their first championship. First time, like Kirby Smart, Ryan Day, it takes a while. And Dan Lanning's in year 4 right now. And so I think he realizes where they're at right now too, and that why would he leave? He has the quarterback. I think Dante Moore comes back. Our secondary is going to be the best in the country next season. I think people are not really aware of how good our secondary is right now. We're going to have a freshman All-American. We might have 2 freshman All-Americans, a corner and a safety. Like, it's a legitimately incredible secondary right now. And so, we return a bunch of guys on offense, our young running backs, our best wide receiver. Like, we're going to have a really good team. He's not going to go anywhere for that reason, I think. So, besides just having a Nike deal, we're going to be really good next season. So I don't think he's really looking at going anywhere else. And so I'm curious to see, obviously, where that ends up. But by the way, are you guys voting today? I keep getting text messages about I'm going to go vote some point this afternoon, but the political text message have got to stop. One just pulled up again. I'm like, I'm going to vote. I promise you, I'm going to go today.
Yeah, we do the mail-in balloting, so just you don't even have to leave the house.
Wait,
It's pretty great.
in a Republican state, that's allowed. Oh, don't say that out loud. Mail ballots? You don't have to go to. I thought that's not a wrong station. We'll get back to sports. I
guess it's more of a Dropbox situation, but
even worse. Those need to be compromised, Sean.
what
You didn't know that?
There's a channel for this, and it's not ESPN 700, Jeff.
I just the stunning information. I'm just like I'm shocked. I'm just wow.
Okay, talking about the coaching carousel move though.
Yeah.
Like that by itself is fascinating enough, right? Which coach is going to end up where, which assistants is he going to bring, who's going to be left behind, who ends up somewhere else. Like that by itself is enough of a soap opera. But because of the NCAA rules and the transfer portal rules associated with coaching changes, I think that we have a record year or near record year with Power 4 coaching changes, big-time jobs changing hands. And then we've been talking about it for years. Every single offseason, it's like, well, there are now 13,000 people in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Potentially major impactful players, if their coach is leaving, are going to end up at Oregon, Texas Tech, Ohio State, these places. I mean, that is an even bigger on-field impact for next year. But
I've thought about this from the coaching thing. Like, what do you tell a coach? I don't want you to come with me. Like, I wonder how the conversation goes. I've got a new job, but not for you. And look, when coach leaves, the portal opens, and like Jordan Seaton, you're an Oregon Duck. I mean, like I hope Oregon can take advantage of some of this. We'll obviously find out as we go and see like where these teams end up and players end up going. But I talked to a coach who thinks there'll be 8,000 people in the portal this cycle.
Stupid. And look, I mean, we'll be talking about 50 of them next year, so we don't have to worry about all 8,000. But it's going to be a flood of just from the current open jobs. I mean, each one of those teams that we've discussed has at least one former ESPN 300 guy, some of them multiple. So there's going to be a big-time flood of real talented players again. It's
not great for the sport, but just want to make sure we're on the right side of history here. Who was on the right side of history in this discussion? Jeff Schwartz was. So
I guess if you're it's bad for the sport if you're in some places. If you're in Eugene, Oregon, you probably love what it does for the sport. If you're in Lubbock, Texas, you love what it does for the sport.
Yeah, especially in Lubbock, yeah. But it's not like, look, it's fine if you're an Oregon Duck. I get it. But I still don't really like it. I don't think that, I get players with new coaches leaving, Sean, but I still don't think players should be able to transfer every year. I just think that's not the spirit of the portal. It's not why the portal was needed or is needed. But again, like this is the where we're at. There's no governance. There's no one to say this how it should be. There's no one to give any guidance because why would there be? They didn't think any of this was going to happen, and so we're sort of at the Wild West right now. And again, I think it's not great for the sport, but that's just sort of what the sport is at the moment. You can't change any of it.
All right. Well, I'll be keeping an eye on your Twitter account for more freezing cold takes and more reaction to the trade deadline. 90 minutes away now in the NFL.
What do you think? Niners doing anything? What do you think?
No. I think we've given up.
What?
I think I've given up on the idea. They haven't given up, but I've given up on the idea that the Super Bowl window slammed shut, and unfortunately, I'm out.
You're out as a fan.
No, not out as a fan, just out on keeping my hopes alive.
Oh, for this season, yeah. Fair enough.
Too many injuries. You can't win without Fred Warner.
The defensive injuries are pretty bad. There's no way around it. Like you get to a point where you're just too hurt as a team. We've talked about this a lot, and with Utah, unfortunately, like it just gets to that point where you just there's only so many players you have, especially in the NFL. You don't have a ton of players, so it's hard to think that this is going to be it's going to be like,
better than I. So correct me if I'm wrong, but like if you try to make trades and potentially overpay in trades to kind of backfill because you lost a Bosa and a Warner, you're not getting that level of player to come in and replace them. So it's kind of like almost a moot point.
And then you also need to be able to like build a roster in the future.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
It sucks, man. Injuries ruin everything.
They do, sir.
All right. Thanks for your time as always. Appreciate you.
Have a good week, everybody. Bye, guys. Thank you.
That's Jeff Schwartz, NFL insider, college football insider, betting insider. He found a spot to bet on Utah to win the Big 12 Conference last week. He's still high on this Utah football team. And thanks to 5540 on the text line, texting in the flow chart, the graphic for the Big 12 Conference tiebreakers. There are possibilities for Utah to make it to the Big 12 championship game as long as they win out, even if Texas Tech and BYU don't end up with 3 losses. So we'll get to some of those on the show. Daily Dump is next, and we might have found not only the luckiest fan, but the luckiest fan family in the history of baseball. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92 on FM. Shout out to our texters today as we get into the Daily Dump, brought to you by our friends over at Valley Plumbing. Any plumbing needs you have, check out Valley. Our texters are being very detailed and thoughtful today. We had someone send in the flow chart on the tiebreakers in the Big 12 Conference, 75-16. We started the show talking about, Utah's ability to climb the rankings or lack thereof, depending on which side of the argument you fall on. I put a Twitter question out whether we should have any kind of hope that Utah could be an at-large bid in the upcoming college football playoff if they finish 10-2, of course.
OC, do we think it's the extra sleep that's contributing to this extra thoughtfulness?
That's what it is.
Insightfulness.
The extra hour of sleep.
Extra year of sleep.
Extra hour of sleep everyone got on Sunday. They're just like, oh, wow, my brain is unlocks new levels.
I understand the wonky 3 or more teams tiebreaker rules
By the way,
in the Big
James,
12.
This is your first fall back as a parent, correct?
Yeah.
Did you notice that it sucks when you're a parent of a baby? It doesn't. The fallback doesn't. The baby doesn't know.
Yeah, the baby doesn't know. I will say this: he's been better than we thought it would be. He would be, but he still has woken up. 2 of the 3 nights he's woken up in the middle of the night. One of the nights he didn't. We were like, okay, what's all this this frustration about here? What everyone losing their minds? They're like, oh, okay, well, just wait a day.
When you have really young children, the fall back doesn't help you at all. In fact, you're just like, great, now I'm up at 7 a.m. instead of 8 a.m.
Yeah,
because they're getting up at they don't care about the clock. They're not waking up on an alarm clock. So, anyway, grievance maybe for Friday. I might have to re-air that. All right, this is an amazing story. The World Series gave us a ton of amazing stories. We did not have much time to talk about it on yesterday's show, recapping the Dodgers going back-to-back. A lot of people at Rice-Eccles Stadium were watching World Series action on their phones in Game 7, and an incredible Utah football performance actually on the field in front of them. Halftime is when the game goes final. And, of course, Game 7 was played in Toronto, right? So the legendary home runs hit are more likely to be caught by a Blue Jays fan. And that is the case on the Miguel Rojas ball and on the Will Smith home run ball. Guess who caught them, James?
I was gonna say I didn't look this up in real time, but watching it happen, I'm like, those balls looked like they were hitting the exact same spot. I'm like, did the same guy get that? So same family got it?
Father, son.
Incredible. The one Rojas, did he not catch it like cleanly, right? Didn't he reach down and into the bullpen and catch it clean with his glove? I think the other one maybe bounced and then they got it.
It's actually glorious. He's got the glove. He catches the ball, okay? And then he goes bleep. Right? And I'm watching, I don't know what happened here, but I'm watching this replay. Catches the ball. Everyone around him is upset, including him, because it's a home run ball for the opposing team. And then he throws the ball back, which makes you a fan legend if you throw a World Series home run ball back.
I don't care if it's a World Series ball. That was the other team's home run. Yeah, absolutely.
But apparently he pulled the old switcheroo. He had a ball in his glove, and he threw the other ball back.
Ah, good. That's very savvy of him.
So
he does care that it's a World Series home run.
He does care that. By the way,
I think all of us would.
You want to talk about like quick thinking? All right. Imagine this: you're sitting. You paid a lot of money for front row tickets, even though it's the outfield. They're still expensive, right?
Especially World Series. Yeah.
World Series tickets. You catch a ball. You already have a ball in the glove, which I don't know why you bring a ball to the ballpark.
For this situation, I guess.
Souvenir ball, maybe. Who knows? He's got it in the glove, right? Which there's plenty of people who are like, this guy's like 50-something years old. Why do you have a glove? Some people are asking that question. Doesn't matter, okay? It's all working out for you. Catches the ball. You're mad, okay? You're like, oh, my gosh. I don't want this home run to have happened. But then you realize, and this is all in like a 15-second span, that wait a second, I just caught a World Series home run ball. But I'm a Blue Jays fan, and we're in Toronto, and all these people around me are like, throw it back, throw it back. And so you're like, yep, okay. So you pull the switcheroo, you throw it back. And, of course, your son has the other home run ball. They want $2.5 million for the pair of them.
Good for them.
Get it. Go get it. Dodgers, fork it out. Stan Kroenke, give him the $2.5 million. Get the balls. Get the balls for your team, for the history of your organization, back to back. That's insane, though, is it not? The guy's 61 years old. Oh, see, you look good, sir. I thought he was in his 50s.
Can I air a teaser grievance against the people who are mad at him for bringing a glove to the park? Since when is there an age limit to bring a baseball glove to the ballpark? Come on.
Apparently,
he can bring one.
Apparently, some statisticians and AI have put together the equation. The odds for a random father-son pair in a random game to catch home run balls, okay? I guess it makes it no more unlikely that it's a World Series game, but from a storytelling perspective, that makes it more significant, is 1 in 2.5 to 10 billion. First of all, I don't like that range.
Yeah, that's a
Tell
lot.
me it's 1.5 billion, 1 in 2.5 billion, or it's 1 in 10 billion, because by going, it's 2.5 to 10 billion, that's
that's basically the same, right?
That's 7.5 billion numbers in there. Stop that.
Apparently the AI or the statisticians' calculators just don't have exact number that high for this scenario. Yeah, that's crazy. It's funny you bring that up. I wasn't curious enough to actually look it up until you brought it up now, OC, but I did have the thought. I'm like, hey, that ball went in the exact same spot.
I'm really curious. We'll have to do a follow-up on what these things end up selling for, because he wants 1.5 or 1.5 for the Will Smith ball, 1 million for the Rojas ball.
I think that's probably reasonable. You're talking about two iconic homers, especially Dodgers, from a Dodgers perspective. Yeah, that's probably reasonable, especially good on him for making the game winner a little bit higher than the other one, too. So I think that's reasonable.
The highest price paid for a baseball ever is
it Bartman's ball?
No, heck no. It's Shohei Ohtani's
right, the
50th home run ball.
50 ball, yeah.
$4.39 million.
Bartman's went for a lot, though, too.
The Mark McGwire 70th home run ball, $3 million. The Freddie Freeman 2024 World Series walk-off ball, $1.56 million.
I know Ohtani is Ohtani, and that's like a first time ever feat, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that in a regular season home run ball hit to break a record notwithstanding, that's not the single season home run record, Mark McGwire's ball you're talking about. It's not a walk-off homer in the World Series.
Which was a grand slam, by the way.
Which was a grand slam. Hit to almost the same spot that Kirk Gibson hit it, however many years before that, right? Against the Yankees. That's the power of Ohtani right now, that his regular season ball that broke a record, another significant record, but not near as significant as the single season home run record, is the most valuable home run ball ever.
I would rather have the home run ball. I'd rather have the series deciding home run ball. Would you rather have Freddie Freeman's walk-off grand slam ball from last year, or the solo shot game-changing series deciding ball?
I think I'd rather have
back-to-back.
I think I'd rather have Freeman's.
Yeah.
That one just maybe because it was in LA. And this Dodgers one, series decider notwithstanding, he didn't have the juice behind it because it was a road homer.
Because it was silent.
It was, yeah. There wasn't the juice in the stadium for it. But that Freeman one, I feel like we're gonna forget that Will Smith hit a game-winning homer at some point. I don't know that we're ever going to forget Freddie Freeman's home run.
I've made this point many times in my radio career. One thing I don't like is the fact that the ball is the thing that is so valuable. The ball is a passive participant here. The bat is the thing.
Yeah.
I want the World Series bat, okay?
Yeah, if you ever catch a ball, be like, hey, I need the bat. I'll give it to you. Just give me your bat.
Honestly, yeah.
And
Freddie
then-
Freeman, give me the bat.
And then
You
and
can
then
have
how
the
much
ball.
how much was Shohei? How much did Shohei's go for? I'm gonna price it 1 penny higher.
4,390,001 penny, like Dwight Schrute in that auction. I know you can't reverse like the course of baseball history, but I want to know what Yahoo. I guess it's because it's more accessible to the fan that decides that the ball is the thing, but like the bat is the thing that I want to see in the museum. The ball can be the fan thing. In the museum, I want to see the bat that hit it.
Yeah.
The bat is the tool. No one's just like, this is the legendary nail that we hammered into. No, the hammer.
Let me ask you something, OC. In the natural, is there a lightning bolt on the ball?
There's not.
Of any homers he hits? No, it's on the bat.
Thank you.
Did the tree that he made the bat out of, did that also strike a baseball that he hit? No.
That's what I'm saying.
Did the lightning strike that? I screwed that up.
The lightning can't strike the ball and create the ball.
Yeah.
Well, this twine was struck by lightning in the factory. No. The bat is the thing, is the cool thing.
The natural has all the answers.
The game-winning home run bat.
You're so right about that. It's probably become the ball being the most valuable thing because that's the thing that the fan can get their hands on if you catch it, right? Or if you come up with it.
Yeah.
You can't unless you have a broken bat that if the bat breaks later and part of it flies into the stands like we see. The bat doesn't go into the stands. The ball does. So.
I think that my Little League baseball team and I were probably the reason why Smith's Ballpark, which at the time was like Spring Mobile or whatever ballpark, outlawed players handing their broken bats to fans after the games because I want to say like 6th or 7th grade. You know what? Those wooden bats, they don't always shatter when they break. They'll just crack, and the players will be like, crap, this is no good anymore. So they'll just hand them to, kids over top of the dugout at the end of the game. Like 6 dudes from my Little League baseball team and some random adult man were wrestling for this thing for like half an hour after the game. And it was very strange because it was not like malicious in any way. No one was mad. We were all just like competing to see who could get the bat. Everyone had their hands on the bat and was like tugging at it,
so there's
twisting.
The man who's by himself, he's got no one else helping him. He's probably just getting a kick out of like, oh, how many more kids do you need?
Yeah,
to try to pry this
he's
out of my hands.
Just like, and he's the one who ended up getting it at the end of the day.
Mountain of a man, it sounds.
Which,
like.
by the way, not a good look in hindsight.
No,
the bat is the participant in that thing that I want.
OC, I wanted to. I love the text, and maybe we can get to this the next segment about reminding us that there's always really difficult to understand 3 or more team tiebreaker rules in conference championship scenarios here. Big 12 is no exception. So I love the text who sent us that flow chart to remind us that, hey, like, yes, if it ends up that Utah's tied with BYU or Texas Tech for the second spot in the championship game, the head-to-head matters. But if it's like a 4-way tie for second with BYU/Texas Tech being part of that, Utah still is very much alive. And anyway, he's found a scenario where Texas Tech loses once, Utah is in. So I love it. Just makes you feel way more hopeful for the rest of the season.
So there's the only downside to this tiebreaker is you got to be rooting aggressively for BYU. I'll explain why when we come back on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right. I want to start the conversation with the utmost clarity. We know that Utah football has to win out in order for a conference championship to be an even remote possibility. It is an easier said than done type of proposition. Baylor can win some football games. They can score some points. All right. In fact, I'm gonna double check. I think Baylor has scored more points this year than any other team in the conference, if I'm not mistaken. So they haven't played a lot of defenses that are as good as Utah's. But Baylor, okay. No, they haven't scored the most points in the conference. But in any case, they could score. All right. Kansas State at its best is a team that looks like they, deserve a top 25 ranking. Looks like a team that, they for about a half against Texas Tech looked like they were going to take control of that game, and then Tech made the plays they needed to kind of reverse those things. So there's danger there. Kansas is the most bipolar team in the conference, and you have to just maintain your consistency if you want to win out. If you do, there are some possibilities. However, those possibilities are reliant, like they were in 2022, on other scenarios playing themselves out in the conference around you. So the most intriguing one for Utah right now is BYU finishing conference play undefeated. Easier said than done. They have tough tests ahead of them. They've got UCF, not so tough. They've got TCU, and they have Texas Tech and Cincinnati. So potentially two of the top 5 teams in the conference in the last 4 games of the year. And then TCU is probably number 6 if we're talking about the top 5 teams in the conference.
And then probably the worst team. Oh, sorry. UCF doesn't belong in that.
UCF doesn't.
They're not the worst team either.
They're not great, though. So do we believe that BYU is going to finish the season undefeated? I don't. So that, in that case, though,
I could see just one loss, though. I could see just this next week at Texas Tech. I could see them winning the rest of them.
If BYU finishes out, Utah serve themselves, and ends up with a 7-2 conference record. They hold the head-to-head tiebreaker over Arizona State, obviously, Cincinnati, obviously. They don't play Houston, but they get the tiebreaker over Houston. And actually, in that case, they would get the tiebreaker over Texas Tech, who they lost to head-to-head, because their strength of schedule on all conference opponents and strength of record, really, with all conference opponents in that case, would give them the tiebreaker over Texas Tech, much to the chagrin of Red Raider fans, I'm sure, if it played out that way.
Absolutely. And 2022 is an apt comparison because you had that situation with Oregon. Oregon beat Utah that year, but because when there's 3 or more teams tied for the last spot in the conference championship game, even in the Pac-12 rules, you had a similar situation where the head-to-head didn't matter. As I'm sure Oregon fans weren't happy about that in 2022, but Utah benefited from that. You want to hear the actual language of the 3 or more teams here? This is totally easy to understand. Records of the 3 or more tied teams will be compared based on winning percentage against all common conference opponents played by all other teams involved in the tie. So, common conference opponents becomes the next thing.
All right.
Which is very easy for all of us to. Do you have an extra 3 hours to try to figure that out on a
who
Saturday?
Are your common conference opponents? You didn't play each other, so who did you play in conference? How'd you do against those teams? It's why when we started the show, I was like, I actually think that the more likely scenario is that Utah builds a strong case for itself to be an at-large team that did not get to play in its conference championship game. And then when I say the more likely case, I mean you get to build the case that you don't get invited to the college football playoff. It would be the most upsetting version of the outcome, right? For the state, there's still a strong possibility I won't say strong possibility. There's still a possibility that the conference championship game is Texas Tech versus Cincinnati. It's kind of up to BYU to decide, both if Utah and or BYU get into the conference championship game. The fate of our state's inclusion or exclusion from Arlington and the Big 12 championship lies in Kalani Sitake's hands.
Because here's the deal. If BYU doesn't hand Cincinnati one more loss, Cincinnati it's similar to Texas Tech. They don't have their other opponents left on their schedule are not teams you'd expect them to lose to. So if that's the case, then and BYU only has one loss or they're undefeated, none of this comes into play. Like Cincinnati, the only right now looks like losable game for Cincinnati left in their schedule is BYU. So that's a really important one for as far as Utah's chances to still get into the conference.
I think that, and by the way, I don't know how healthy BYU is going to be able to get in this. They had the bye week last week. I don't know how severe. I mean, Glasgow and Kelly have been playing kind of banged up. I think they'll be back closer to full strength. The LJ Martin injury is the most significant one, the most important one for BYU because they're already down. Sione Mo has already been hurt. And the LJ Martin thing, they rely so heavily on him. You know what? We don't need to just pontificate about this. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Maybe Jerem Jordan has some insight on how healthy somebody like LJ Martin was able to get over the bye week. The tiebreaker scenario is, again, it's a moot point if you don't win out. So that's the main focus for Utah football. We also have to touch on some Utah basketball in hour number 3 because the Alex Jensen era got off to a successful start. 1 game in, Big 12 champs, University of Utah Utes. Red and Blue next with Jerem Jordan on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Hour number 3 begins with Red and Blue. Our friend Jerem Jordan, BYU Sports Nation. This conversation is brought to you by Murdoch Ford Santa Quinn. Jerem Jordan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Sean, couldn't be better. BYU number 8 in both AP polls. We'll see what they are tonight in the college football playoff poll. And Hoops coming off a win that they made it interesting in the end. AJ, Rob, and Richie and the boys showed off on TNT. So life's good right now. First top 10 matchup in BYU football history Saturday. I didn't realize they'd never done that. They never played another top 10 as a top 10. I mean, you could argue this is one of the biggest games of BYU football history. This is massive.
I think you can make an easy argument for that, especially given the sort of importance of success in modern football, where, there's not as much wiggle room where you can stay a dynasty if you don't win in these big spots and these big options. So we'll see how it plays out. They are, again, they're double-digit underdogs, and I understand that the injury bug has started to bite BYU, and I hope for an update from you on how healthy some of these guys are if we can get one. But I don't understand why, if you've watched this BYU team, and especially this defense, you think that they have any business being a 10.5-point underdog against Texas Tech.
It's all a numbers game with that. And the way BYU has won in some of its games is not as impressive as other teams. Metrically, BYU is really good in some things. Their EPA margin, EPA, expected points added, that's a big kind of metrical number. BYU is 11th in that in the country. I mean, that's great. BYU is legit top 10 team. Just because you haven't lost a game doesn't mean there aren't one-loss teams that sort of are in the mix with you, right, in that sense. I wouldn't put BYU in the same category as kind of the big three, Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas A&M in terms of kind of who they've beaten and how they've done it. But what is BYU? They're an 8-0 team that has figured out how to win each week. So now they get a chance to prove themselves against Texas Tech, who to me is the best team in the league. Vegas validates that too with a massive spread going into this one. But BYU is 7-1 in its last 8, Sean, when they are the underdog. Not against the spread, just straight up winning or losing the game. They're 7-1. The one loss was Arizona State last year. And if BYU was 500 in that situation, that'd be good. But they're 7-1. So now they have someone else telling them they can't do it again. As for some of the injuries, BYU getting healthier. Pete Thamel reporting what I had been hearing, which is that LJ Martin will play Saturday, which is great. LJ, dinged up the shoulder a little bit, didn't play the last 3 quarters against Iowa State. BYU had to change the game plan, couldn't run the ball as effectively without him, although Bear Bachmeyer did a nice job. And now it sounds like he'll go, which is important for him. He's a kid from El Paso playing in Lubbock. There's some kind of emotion and a personal touch there for him, which is great. Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasker just going to kind of play through some injuries as backers and the contact that they go through. BYU hoping to get JoJo Phillips back, who's been out since the beginning of the year, and looking healthier than they have been in a while, which is great. Sione Moa is still out for a while. We'll see if he plays this year. Hopefully he gets healthy, but Cougars needed that bye week. Everyone says, it came at a great time. Literally was the best thing ever for BYU to prepare for their biggest game and to get healthy. And I think BYU feels confident they can surprise some people again.
Do you know how did they handle the practice schedule last week during the bye week? This week you got to get back to normal.
Yes, they went hard Tuesday. They went into Texas Tech install Tuesday. So they've been thinking about and downloading mentally, physically, going through reps and whatnot. That they had the weekend off, as all teams typically do during the bye week. You don't want to go too hard. You got to rest the body. But they've been brewing, stewing, going over everything since last Tuesday on Texas Tech.
You already said you think Texas Tech is the best team in the Big 12 Conference. You think they're the best team in the Big 12 Conference, including BYU, or the best team besides BYU?
Yes. No. I think they're better than BYU. Yeah. I think BYU's number 2. I think Utah's 3. I give BYU the nod because head-to-head, the way Utah's playing right now with 2 wins of 30-plus over top 25 teams, you can see an argument there, but I'm going to reward BYU for obviously the head-to-head and having not lost quite yet. Those are 2 big deals to me. So those are your top 3 teams in the league. So this is a big game. I'm hoping, obviously, BYU wins. If they don't win, I'm hoping for a competitive game where they don't get dinged too much, and then obviously they need to win the last 3 to get to the Big 12 championship game. I'm not really in on kind of figuring out the college football playoff scenario for BYU and whatnot quite yet. All I know is they need to get themselves to Arlington. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. And that's been the goal the whole year. After last year, is they started 9-0, they stumbled at the end. What they didn't expect was Kansas, right? That's your TCU and your UCF sitting there for BYU. You've got 2 Arizona States from last year in Tech, which is a way tougher game than even that Arizona State game was last year. And then at Cincinnati on the road, not going to be easy as well coming up in 2.5 weeks. So it's a gauntlet. If BYU can go 3-1 in the last 4, that's great. I don't see BYU going 4-0. I just think the schedule is too tough, and BYU's a little banged up. But they're ahead of schedule, Sean. It's like that perspective, I think, is important here. They probably should be 6-2 or 5-3, but they figured it out. They're a good complementary team. Bear Bachmeier's been way better than we thought, and I don't all of a sudden change to like college football playoff or bust kind of thing. I just think let's see what BYU can do this Saturday. If they win this game, now they have to go to Arlington. They have to go to the playoff because they've got to finish the deal that they didn't finish last year.
I don't think this Cincinnati matchup for BYU is scary at all because much like I was assessing Utah against Cincinnati, I think if LJ Martin is healthy, I guess that's a major qualifier. I don't think Cincinnati is going to be able to stop BYU from scoring points, and I think that BYU defensively matches up pretty well with Cincinnati's offense. So, like, the Texas Tech game is obviously a terrifying matchup for everyone in the Big 12 conference this year. And the fact that you got to do it on the road is another wrinkle of another degree of difficulty added. But Cincinnati, I don't think scares me at all. We'll have time to talk about that before it comes. But a healthy BYU team, I think, smokes Cincinnati in a similar fashion to how Utah did.
And that's the hope. And part of me is not just, Cincinnati. It's the attrition of the season and where BYU's at and how they've done it, right? BYU has not been blowing out fools to where they can feel like, oh, yeah, we're going to win every game, like, totally no matter what. Yet, BYU's just kind of figured it out. And it's been a different formula every week. And the versatility of this team and this coaching staff to adjust mid-game is incredible. Defensively, you're getting, a run out of the building initially against Iowa State. They laid the jackhammer down on defense. They changed the game plan on offense at halftime, and then they rolled. They go on a 31-3 run and win. That's incredible. Like, there's not a lot of teams that could just change, go about face and adjust mid-game, and with the true freshman quarterback. I know we're like past that, but I just think what he's doing is incredible. And so, yeah, if you can go and beat Tech, oh man, now it's like you should be in the top 6, and you have a real argument there. I get like whatever the committee values tonight, that's where they'll put BYU. If they think strength schedule is a big deal, then obviously BYU 48 is not going to be inside the top 7. They'll probably be 8 or 9. They were 9 last year, I think, at this exact point when they were 8-0. So we'll see, man. But they get an opportunity to validate the season. Last year they got the SMU win, and then we looked retroactively and said, "Oh, look how good that win is." This year BYU's got an opportunity in Game 9, man, and it's game day, and it's ABC, and it's Herbie and Fowler, but will anyone throw a tortilla on the field? I know they ruled that out. Will a tortilla be thrown is the real question this week.
I think they'll save those for the game day set maybe in Lubbock, throwing the tortillas. Who knows?
BYU used to throw tortillas, by the way. That was like a thing I remember growing up. Is like sometimes people throw tortillas on the field. So I don't know what it is with tortillas. Maybe they're cheap. Students can afford. I don't know.
One of my most distinct memories of my time at Utah was in the 2004 BYU-Utah game. A bunch of tortillas were being thrown onto the field because Utah was going to the Fiesta Bowl if they beat BYU.
There you go.
And there's tortillas are part of, I guess, the football culture here in the state of Utah.
They're way greater than a paper plane. You can really chuck it. I think there's Frisbee culture here, Sean. So I think people know the form. I think it's part of who we are, throwing a tortilla. I don't know why.
Jerem Jordan, BYU Insider, is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show for a little bit of Red and Blue, brought to you by Murdoch Ford Santa Quin, new Murdoch Ford dealership down there in Santa Quin, Utah. If you're down at the south end of Utah County, go check them out. Tell them OC sent you. This Bear Bachmeier conversation that we have every single week is something that I know that BYU fans have the right to be super excited about the entire direction of the football program, the Rider Lions commitment, what Kalani's been able to do with his assistants and all that stuff. But finding and developing this kid in particular in a 11-month span, not even, it's been like 7 months, is really one of the best things we've seen in BYU football in the last 25 years. I mean, this kid being what he's being without having spring ball at BYU is bananas. And I don't know if we're giving anyone enough credit for it. I don't know if we're giving him enough credit for it, or A-Rod enough credit for it, or anyone else. But this is just something that if he continues to have the success that I think he's capable of having, I don't know how it changes a lot of the conversations about what your future looks like if you've got a national level star coming off a freshman year where he's able to take your team to the precipice of a college football playoff, or best case scenario, actually into one.
It's crazy. Yeah, you're right. It's nuts. I mean, it's one of the craziest things that's happening at BYU in a year, by the way, where they have 5 fabulous freshmen in different sports. Suli Davis is one of the best in women's volleyball. Kihei Akina is one of the best in men's golf. And then the National Gatorade Girls High School Athlete of the Year any sport is Jaden Hedengren from cross country. She just won the Big 12 championship last week. AJ DeMonta, of course, the main headliner there. But Bear Bachmeier fits into that group of 5 freshmen. There you go. What in the world? It's a new era. BYU's recruiting in a way they never have. It's 3rd year in the Big 12. It's NIL. It's really a testament to where BYU is and is going, as you mentioned. So, like you said, Aaron Roderick's done an unbelievable job. Credit Bear Bachmeier's family, and just kind of that's a football family, right? Like Hank is the guy, and Tiger and Bear, and they got a young brother named Cougar, which is unbelievable for BYU fans too. Like, are you kidding me? The way he's come along, he has full access to the playbook, by the way. It's not a partial thing that he's dominating. He has full access. They give him 2 plays of the line. He checks out of it all the time. He takes care of the football. He's tough as nails. He wears 47. His name's Bear. All the stuff. BYU's way ahead of schedule. And you're right. The next couple of years look really bright for BYU as they have great recruiting classes. And when Bear won the job in fall, it was like, wow, is that a product of he's just the best man up? Or I dare say, like, if Jake Retzoff was there in fall camp, would Bear maybe have put him on edge a little bit going into the season? If he slipped up, would Bear have come in? Like, he's been that good. He's been that good, and it's helped BYU get to this point in an incredible way. And now he's got an opportunity on a national stage Saturday to keep it going.
All right, let's talk about one of the guys that you just mentioned, AJ DeBonsa and BYU with their regular season debut last night. Fun game, really interesting. AJ obviously finished with a great stat line and looked like he's going to live up to the billing. A 1-game sample size is certainly not enough to make a definitive conclusion there, but you can see why all the hype exists. But Keba Keita was the best player in that game, in my opinion.
Yeah, hey, Utah fans hate or love that. I'm not sure. But, yeah, he's the man. I mean, he had an 8.7 rebound, 3-block game, but his influence was like double that. It really was like he had a 20, 15, and 5. He was double screening, meaning he sets that first screen, kind of rolls, and then steals the next guy for a couple layups late in the game for BYU. That was big. He was blocking shots into the front row. He's, tipping everything. His influence was unbelievable. I agree. He was the most influential player of the game. He was the MVP of the game for BYU. But you got 70% of your points from the big 3 with DeBonta, Wright, and Richie Saunders. Lots to be excited about for BYU fans. Normally, that would be like, wow, you beat Villanova in the opening game. Look at that. But because the standard's so high for this team, there's a little more nitpicking on, as Bill Simmons would say, picking nits today, where you go, whoa. 31 second chance points for Villanova. You got to rebound the basketball a little better. BYU had 7 bench points. They were out benched by 31 points, which is a lot. Who's going to score off the bench for BYU? So they have a starting lineup that can hang with anyone, but what's that bench going to be? Last year was a different model. This year is certainly you're all in on those kind of 5 guys. Someone I was talking to today said, hey, Gonzaga used to win with 6 some years. Maybe that's what BYU has to do, but I'm not sure that's sustainable in the Big 12. So it was game 1. They have things to figure out. They missed 18 shots at the rim. That was a lot within 4.5 feet. Maybe that's first game jitters. Maybe that's, that situation. It's TNT. It's Vegas. It's right after Florida, Arizona. It felt big time. A lot of Cougar Nation showed up in Vegas, which was cool. So lot to prepare and do better. Holy Cross coming in Saturday, who gave Providence a game. They were within 10 last night. And then Delaware on Tuesday. And then it's UConn in Boston, home of the Celtics, TD Bank Garden there, the next Saturday. So you ramp up to UConn, who's a top 5 team. That'll be a huge game. And BYU certainly got the talent to hang. It's just there's some questions to figure out. And the nice thing is they have good 5 days of practice before the next game.
I know that people are really high on KYU. Kevin Young seems like, he's the right guy in the right situation right now. You saw in that game the moments where, even when your mega star player is making some freshman mistakes or things like that, the communication, he immediately goes over, he immediately addresses these things. I know it's just basketball coaching, but I also think with, I don't want to belabor the Cada point too much. He's put these guys in a role and maybe a hierarchy, if that's the right way to say it, that seems like he's trying to maximize what this, not just individual talents can be, but what this group is going to be together. And I know it's only a 1-game sample size, as I've already mentioned, but if these guys are able to kind of play within the system, I think he is building there, and within the roles that I think he is putting these guys in there, there's a reason why the expectations should be so high, because it checks a lot of the boxes when you've got excellent guard play, when you've got long athletic wings, when you've got somebody who's kind of a seasoned shooter, and when you've got a physical presence that can make hustle plays like we saw being made last night. It's like that's the recipe for not only regular season success, but tournament success in college basketball.
Absolutely. And roles can evolve. 2 years ago, before Kevin Young was here, Richie Saunders was a guy off the bench who hustled and maybe made a three. Last year, he graduated from glue guy to star, and now BYU's got a big three. And Kevin Young was on the 21 Suns team that went to the finals. He knows kind of what you need for a group to come together and the urgency required in college basketball. You don't have to win every game. You kind of win 2/3 and you play a bunch of quad ones, and then you get into the tourney. You hope you have a good seed. BYU beefed up the schedule. But, yeah, at the end of the game, you saw exactly what BYU did. They went with the same guys kind of last 6 or 8 minutes, and then the ball was in AJ's hand and Rob Wright's hand a lot. Richie Saunders, by the way, was sick, thrown up all day, so he was under the weather. It's flu game, if you will. But, yeah, he understands kind of what this is and how to maximize your talent. And any team has to figure out their roles and come together. Even last year with Yegor Down and Dallin Hall, it took a minute. Yegor got hurt. Dallin played a little more. Dallin was used to being the starter. They had to figure that out, even though Kevin had all that experience, right? And they did. They went on a 9-game win streak in February into March, and they were winning at Iowa State, winning at Arizona. They were pulling off these crazy games, and it got them a good seed, and they ended up going to the Sweet 16. This year, BYU is vying for a top 4 seed, and you don't get the 4 seed in November. You get it in March. You've got to build to that point, and the Big 12 is such a gauntlet, as we know, and that you don't do it now. The next 2 games, though, BYU needs to prepare for UConn, right? They need to get ready for that. But you're exactly right. Like, I don't know that certain guys are like, wait, why am I not averaging 20 games? It's like, well, because you're not one of the big 3. Dominique Diamande didn't even play yesterday. I think he's a little banged up, kind of getting ready. Xavier Staten was the highest-rated recruit in BYU history before AJ. He played like a minute. Sometimes it just takes a sec to come along. And it was 1 game, and I'm confident that Kevin Young will put these guys in a great position because he had his first year, too, himself in the Big 12. Now he kind of knows the lay of the land. I'm excited to see what kind of impact that has on the season, too.
The UConn game in Boston, AJ DeBounce obviously has some roots there. This is a guy who I suppose it's forced upon you when you're talked about the way he's been talked about for the last 3 or 4 years, right? Mature beyond his years is such like a cliche phrase, and there's so much platitude to that. But, I mean, every time you hear him open his mouth or answer questions, it seems like he's been built for this. He's been prepared for this. What do you think the kind of confluence of factors? He's playing big-time college ball. It's UConn, and it's UConn in a place that probably means a lot more to him. Does that pressure finally show some crack for A.J. DeBonsa?
I don't know, because I think he's been in so many situations where everyone shows up to watch him play, whether it's on the AAU circuit or in Nike Summit representing the United States, or this summer U19 in Switzerland. He was the MVP. He's the best player in the world under 19. He got that award, MVP, representing USA, whereas there's a bunch of stars on that team, a bunch of future NBA guys he's playing with and against, and he was the best player. He's sharing the ball. He's shooting it when he needs to. He's playing defense. He's engaged on both ends. Like, I don't know that there's – I mean, a ton of situations where he'll be like, I've never felt this kind of pressure. It's all been relative, because when you're in high school and the high school gym is packed, that's as big as it gets. Then when you're in college and the college gym is packed, that's as big as it gets. It just continues to sort of relatively get bigger. And last night you saw a few moments where he kind of raised his game like, okay, now is my moment. He's taking contact. He's finishing at the rim. He gets absolutely destroyed at the rim on a block, but he hustles back. BYU gets the ball up to him. He knocks down a three, barks in the guy's face. I love that because I think he could have very well been disengaged of, oh my gosh, I just got destroyed at the rim on national TV. No, next play. And so I think he's been prepared. I think his parents have done a great job. Ace and Chelsea, he's traveled all over the world. He's talked to all these NBA guys and all these athletes and done all these things. I don't know. Like, at some point, sure, there'll be a moment where he doesn't come through or something. But emotionally, I think he's pretty level-headed to sort of handle what is going to be a big game at UConn, a big game with Wisconsin in the Delt Center, and so on and so forth. Last night was just the tip of the iceberg.
When do we get some kind of AJ Bear Bachmeyer buddy comedy or other collaboration on campus?
Well, I'm here to announce live on BYU TV coming this winter. No, just kidding. That would be awesome. They have fake mustaches. They're going around Provo. Yeah, that would be funny. But yeah, I'm telling you, it's Bear. It's these other freshmen. Like, it's a really special freshman recruiting class from across the board at BYU. And I don't know that we initially thought like, yeah, Bear's one of those five. When he came from Stanford, I thought it was a big deal, but we didn't think this would be this, right? I mean, I love the tweets when they're like, if you woke up from a coma and they told you Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones were two of the top that kind of thing. If you woke up in a coma from 5 months ago and said BYU football did it again, but Jake Retzloff's that Tulane, you'd be like, well, who's the quarterback? It's been an unbelievable story.
I was at the Utah game on Saturday, and somebody came up to me and said, hey, I'm standing on the field pregame. Is it true Arkansas was interviewing Jay Hill today? I was like, what? How would I know something like that? Well, the flight tracker, the Arkansas private jet was in town, and it can't be for Kalani, right? I'm like, I don't think Kalani's going anywhere. I have no idea who's interviewing Jay Hill, but how much hand-wringing is happening in Provo among the fan base. I know that in the facility, they're just handling their business. Is the fan base getting nervous with all these openings?
I don't think so. No, I think BYU feels pretty confident that obviously Kalani's here in the long haul, and that Jay Hill's invested in some amazing recruits that they're getting, and he's in a good spot. Obviously, one day there will be an opportunity for Jay, and he'll be a head coach somewhere, and he'll be awesome. But I don't know that it's right now. I saw some of those tweets on Twitter, of course, too, and I was like, what's this? But then, you see the others, they just stopped for gas. Who knows, man? Provo, the gas hub of the West. We thought it was the crossroads.
Well, it's going to be a really interesting weekend with this huge top 10 matchup. The whole Big 12 conference obviously has to pay attention. Do you think, last thing before I let you go, do you think that tonight we get a pretty strong indication one direction or another how the college football playoff committee feels about the conference as a whole?
Yeah, I hope it's not dripping in too much SEC. Chances are it will, due to what TV contracts are with what leagues. I think if Fox did the show, the Big Ten would be represented in a certain way. I think because the ESPN, they do have a deal with the Big 12 too, but the Big 12 has a deal with a bunch of teams. I don't know. I just hope that a second team has a legit shot at this, and that it's not just the Big 2. The Big 12 needs a second team in this playoff. The best case scenario for the league, is that it's BYU or Texas Tech, the one loss or no loss kind of situation. But a two-loss team's got to have a real good case to be able to make it. So I think it's going to be interesting. My hope is BYU goes 3-1, so they get to Arlington. If they go 2-2, they're back where they were last year. They're in the mixer. But the tiebreakers, they still be ahead of schedule, but it'd be disappointing because 8-0 and not making it to Arlington would be a bummer. So BYU's got to really come through, and we'll kind of see where the league is perceived right now tonight. I don't want BYU to lose and then get the Georgia Tech treatment, by the way. They fell precipitously in the AP poll. We'll see what they are tonight in the college football playoff poll.
That's Jerem Jordan, BYU insider, for a little red and blue, brought to you by Murdoch Ford down in Santa Quin. Always appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. We'll see you.
Great stuff from Jerem Jordan. BYU is in a very, very optimistic and sort of hope springs eternal kind of phase with sports. If you watched any of that BYU basketball game last night, you're probably thinking, dang it, because that team looks like they can be really good. Even with a violently ill Richie Saunders, they looked good, even with some of the issues that they had on the boards. At the very, very end of the game, Keba Keita landed funny on a shot block attempt, and it tweaked his right knee.
And you fist pumped. No, you don't root for injuries.
Never.
Sorry.
And look, Keba is he's a guy who transferred down there, right? So you got to have a little affection for him. I think he's going to be. I think Kevin Young is going to help him become a really excellent NBA player. I think the role that he's going to play this year is just going to put him on a lot of teams' radars. He's not going to be A.J. DeBonsa. He's not going to be a number 1 overall pick. He's not going to be a number 5 overall pick. He's going to be a guy that's like picked number 28 and ends up having a 12-year NBA career where he's an important part of a really good team because he has the physical tools to be a disruptor, to do what we saw him doing last night. If you ask him to be one of the primary scoring options on your team, I think you're pulling him out of what really makes him excellent. And I don't think he's going to have to do any of that at BYU this year. I think because they've got Wright and Saunders and AJ and a bench full of guys that are more natural scorers, you're going to see him be like some kind of Matisse Thybulle in college or Draymond Green in the NBA kind of a player, where he's just a defensive specialist, a hustle play guy, a sort of antagonist for opposing scorers.
Yeah, he's a guy that has benefited from staying in college for sure.
100%.
When he first got into college basketball, of course, at the University of Utah, you could see, great potential. What an athlete. Look how strong he is. Great rebounding instincts, shot blocking instincts, whatever. But it was just like raw talent, right? Every year he's gotten just a little bit better. And last year I thought he was incredible. He looks like he's even better at one game in, notwithstanding this season.
I just hope that the right knee wasn't a thing. Because that was right at it was literally Villanova's last meaningful shot attempt. He tries to block it and land is funny right out on the 3-point line.
Tough.
And then, he stayed on the floor. Nova shot a couple of free throws after that. And while he's standing there waiting for the rebound, he's like massaging his patella. So hope it's nothing. Speaking of college basketball, the Alex Jensen era off to a good start. We'll talk about that game. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's number 1 sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. There's going to be a lot of teams in the Big 12 Conference that garner basketball highlights in the college basketball world. Houston right now is thought to be a top 2 team in the country. Arizona, if anyone was tuning in last night to watch the players, like the star player version of college basketball, AJ DeBonta was certainly going to be in that conversation. Koa Pete welcomes himself to the chat. 30 points, 7 rebounds, 3 steals. You know who he played high school basketball with?
You?
Cody Williams of the Utah
Oh,
Jazz.
Cody Williams. Yeah.
They were teammates, won a state championship together in Arizona. So Arizona is not all that different than Utah is when it comes to like its demographics and the high school sports and things like that. Imagine this was when Pete was a freshman, right? And he's going to be a first-round draft pick this upcoming cycle, right? Imagine you're a guy who is, you're James Peterson at Scottsdale High School down there, and you're just like, cool, let's go out here, let's play some high school basketball. Your sophomore year, you're going up against a team that's got at least 2 NBA guys on it, and they're demolishing you for on their way to a state championship. And then you go on to become a radio producer or an accountant or an insurance salesman, and you're just like, why did I have to play against those guys in high school? It's crazy.
Yeah, my I can't recall anybody in St. George that I played against that ended up being big-time player, but my brother, a couple years older than me, they played a non-region game, preseason game against Lone Peak.
Uh-huh.
Tyler Hawes, Lone Peak. I can't they had a 6'11" center on the team too that I can't remember the name
I'm
either,
sure someone
but
will text it
yeah,
in.
but Tyler Hawes is 6'5", which for high school basketball, especially against guys in St. George, might as well have been a center. And he's their small forward.
Yes.
And he ends up having an incredible career at BYU. So that I remember watching my brother's team just get destroyed by this otherworldly Lone Peak team. So I never played against someone like that, but I certainly witnessed it firsthand.
Now, there's a couple things that can happen when you play against guys who go on to be pros, right? You can get absolutely cooked by these individuals and realize, there's differences between us. And then there's the opposite, right, where you do a pretty good job against that guy. That would almost be harder, in my opinion. If you're playing high school football, you're playing high school basketball against somebody who goes on to great success and, fame and fortune, and you're like, wait, that guy scored, he had his worst game of the year against me. Should I have gone a different path? Should I have been in college basketball? Should I be in the NBA? One of my closest friends, James, was a really, really good offensive line. Really, really good offensive lineman in high school. And the NFL player that we went against was Brian Keel, who joined us the week of the BYU game. We played against Brian Keel every year growing up, right? And Keel had solid games. Keel never destroyed my buddy. Never even came close to, outmatching him. You know what I mean? Keel went on to had a really solid NFL career. That's a tough one. You're like, wait, I was good enough to block him, and he played in the NFL. Should I have been in the NFL? I don't know. Anyway, Big 12 basketball, you're going to get a lot of players and a lot of teams that draw headlines. But Utah basketball, starting off the Alex Jensen era with an 84-75 victory over San Jose State. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, 1-0, undefeated.
1-0, baby. Woo!
And Alex Jensen has retired undefeated.
Alex Jensen has the best winning percentage in the history of Utah men's basketball.
Don't ask about the sample size. How dare you?
That's all you need to know.
By the way, it was Justin Hamilton that was on that team.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was the big guy. on that Lone Peak team.
Justin
with Tyler
Hamilton ended up playing a bunch of years overseas, right?
Yeah.
Justin Hamilton actually randomly
a good run in the NBA too as a backup.
Shout out to my guy Dave Stevens, one of my good friends, teammate my freshman year of college. Justin Hamilton married his little sister.
Oh.
And the web, it's all connected.
Look at that. And he destroyed my brother's varsity basketball team. Go Flyers.
All right.
Moving on. Back to your thought about running Utes.
Well, I mean, look, just like with BYU, just like with Houston, just like it's a one-game sample size, but what you saw was a team competing hard, overcoming some mistakes. 23 points for Seydu. You had Keanu Dawes, who I thought was the most important player for this new coaching staff to retain from the old era, right? Because Keanu Dawes is the kind of guy that I think everyone in the Big 12 would like to have him add some depth on their team at the very least, maybe be a feature player on their team, and to convince him to stay and to get the commitment required to get him to stay, I thought was an important thing for this era of Utah basketball. But 84-75, they get the victory. 50% from the field is probably not something that you can expect to last for the whole season, but solid enough. 40% from three. Again, you want to see this team have some success shooting from beyond the arc, because so much of basketball now and so much of the way that you can kind of erase talent gap disparities is by shooting well from range in basketball. Hopefully that's something that becomes more a part of Utah's identity. They out-rebounded San Jose State, but not by the margin you would have liked to have seen. So, a successful debut for Alex Jensen as a head coach. And you had to get that one at some point, so might as well get it in the very first game that he coaches, very first regular season game that he coaches for the Utes. You love to see it.
I mean, a win's a win, right? Especially this time of year. Like, sure, it's not as impressive as beating Villanova, beating San Jose State, but this obviously Utah's goals this year way different than a team like BYU's goals, and the more wins you get, no matter who they're against in your first year, when it's close to a complete rebuild as you can find. That's what the Running Utes program is embarking on with Alex Jensen in his first year. Every win's a big deal, so it's big that they got a win in their season opener. Especially, I'll also put some more context on it. This team lost their 2 exhibition games too, so typically you win your exhibition games, right? A lot of teams end up doing that. This is huge when the first game that counts, they get it done 84-75 last night at the Hudson Center.
All right, one more segment. We'll give away some sneak preview tickets to Now You See Me, Now You Don't. That's the third in the trilogy, if I'm not mistaken.
Third and I believe
final
one, right?
Final?
Finale.
I think. But you never know with Hollywood. They might do a prequel after this.
I mean, we thought
if it's the John Wick movies, they'll just keep going.
Yeah, we thought Fast and the Furious ended like 6 times, and we thought Jurassic World ended, and then they came out with Rebirth. So who knows?
That's maybe that's what you do for every franchise. You just add Rebirth to it.
Yeah,
because people came back. Well, you can't. No, it's Rebirth.
We're reborn. By the way, you saw Rebirth, right? You talked about that. I ended up seeing it long after you did. I enjoyed it. I was skeptical. We don't need this. I enjoyed it though.
Look,
still don't think you needed it, but
the original Jurassic Park is like a phenomenal movie. It's a phenomenal story. It's the plot, the acting. It's all great, right? Lost World, the next one, very underrated, but still very good. Third one, I loved the reboot. Jurassic World, Chris Pratt, get him involved. Let's go. This is fun. Those that started to get silly, but they're movies about dinosaurs coming back to life, people. Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I didn't like they rushed the ending a little bit, but again, it's not here to be an Oscar-winning, thought-provoking piece. It's entertain me and show me cool dinosaurs for 2 hours,
Absolutely.
which they did.
But maybe now you see me. Maybe that's one of the magic tricks. They bring back a dinosaur. Who knows?
Little crossover.
Well.
Now you see me, now you don't. Jurassic Rebirth. We'll give away a sneak peek 4-pack with a trivia question next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Now you see me, now you don't. Sneak preview 4-pack of tickets. It'll be at the Valley Fair Megaplex. If you could answer this question, we were talking during the Daily Dump about the home run balls for the Dodgers. Rojas and Will Smith's home runs were caught by a father and son duo. They want $2.5 million for the two balls. And so we were looking at the most expensive home run balls ever sold in Major League Baseball history. Who was the man who hit the most expensive home run ball ever auctioned off? 877-353-0700. If If you know the answer to that, you were listening to the show, you can tell us. We will give you a 4-pack of sneak preview tickets to Now You See Me, Now You Don't next week at the Valley Fair Megaplex. Sean O'Connell Show coming to an end. Don't cry, because you get the drive next with Spence Checketts. Hi, Spence.
Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. I have a guess.
Okay.
Did this gentleman hit a home run in the late 90s?
No.
He did not.
Well, maybe when he was playing Little League Baseball.
Oh.
Actually, no, he wouldn't have been playing Little League Baseball at that point.
Because I always go back to that, and Mike Lupica wrote this great book, Summer of '98, when it was Sosa and McGuire. It was kind of like the last time baseball was must-watch on a grand scale. Everybody was tuned into the TV every time those two were going up because they were battling for the all-time home run record, and they were just raking. I mean, it seemed like every time they were up, there was a good chance one of them was going to hit a dinger. So this is a modern-era home run ball that was hit.
Yes. Very, very modern.
Very, very recently.
Yeah.
Huh. Did it break some sort of record?
It did. It made history.
Was it hit by a New York Yankee who is 6'7"?
No.
I give up. Who is it?
Shohei Ohtani's 50th home run, 50 steal, 50 home run ball
Oh, okay.
last year.
I see. That makes sense.
Would you pay $4 million plus for that?
I would not pay $4 million plus for much of anything outside of property on the North Shore of Oahu,
Yes.
as you and I have discussed.
Oh, please.
If I had an extra $4 million lying around, that would be my first move.
Yeah. Ohtani with the most expensive home run ball ever. Mark McGuire, who I think you may have been referring to.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mark McGuire with the second most. That was $3 million.
Okay.
And then Freddie Freeman's grand slam walk-off was $1.56 million. That was number 3.
Was Ohtani's home run purchased by his interpreter? That was a cheap shot. Just kidding. That was rude.
With gambling winnings?
I totally thought it was McGuire. McGuire was the first guess that came to my mind.
If we had asked this question 12 months ago, you would have been correct.
Indeed. CFP rankings tonight.
Yeah.
Where do you think Utah falls, generally speaking?
16.
16. Okay. See, this is a tough one because I was listening to a bunch of stuff this morning trying to understand exactly, like the committee every year changes their criteria. And this year, they're thought to, at least as far as what they've expressed, they're using more advanced metrics. They're really trying to nail like who the best teams are as opposed to who, like I'm really fascinated to see what they do with BYU because there's so many people that have so many questions about BYU. Now, my old school dumb football brain says, well, head-to-head has to matter.
Yeah.
Like if you beat the team that you're playing, it probably should matter.
Yeah.
But you look at some of the advanced stuff, they're still 15, 16, 17 in the country, right? AP has them at 9. And the advanced stuff loves Utah, even though they have 2 losses. And I was listening to some of the criteria that the committee chairman put out today. And he said, like, Missouri's quarterback is lost for the year, right? Like, things like that matter. Current form matters. But on the other hand, what is Utah's best win? It's probably Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Right?
Most complete performance against a top 25 team that has still only one conference loss, and their other loss was a very, very close one. They were on a 7-game win streak when they came to Salt Lake City.
But the advanced stuff doesn't like Cincinnati, right?
Fair.
So, Heather Dinich has Texas Tech and BYU in, and she has BYU at 7, Texas Tech at 9.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if we take the committee at their word, if they're looking at everything, if they're looking at form, if they're going to dig into strength of record, if they're going to dig into your current health, if they're going to dig into the advanced metrics, the power indexes and such, does Utah slide up to 12 or 13? I mean, I don't think they can get much higher than that. Did you hear that sound?
Yeah. Somebody's computer chiming at us.
Well, every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings, right?
I would like to, look, it kind of doesn't matter. It's all just for us conversationally, of course. I would like for the committee to say Notre Dame, and I love Notre Dame football.
Mm-hmm.
It's the team of my childhood. I would like for them to say, Notre Dame, you have not impressed us by losing to Miami and to Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have a good win against USC, and beyond that, Boise State is their best win?
I mean, A&M is awesome. Miami just got by SMU, who lost to Baylor. And part of this does come down to how highly they value Tech and BYU, right? The thing that makes me nervous is how many people still seem to have questions about BYU. Now, Saturday is going to be interesting because I actually think there's more pressure on Tech. You're essentially a 2-score favorite at home.
Yeah.
You lose that game, and I think Tech's going to fall. But if you're BYU, you have to pay attention to what just happened to Georgia Tech. Because before this weekend, everybody's like, yeah, they're winning games, but are they good or are they lucky? And then they get got, and they fall, 8 spots, 7 spots or something like if
they also lost to NC State.
But NC State, that's Virginia's only loss. See, this is where we get in the weeds.
But NC State they have a losing conference record. They're one game over 500, losing to a top 10 team, 10 team that everyone's been talking about all year.
Mm-hmm.
Will and should be treated differently than when you get got by a team that shouldn't be able to hang with you. That's why you're punishing Georgia Tech for that loss, because NC State is a team that has lost 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
If you get got by Texas Tech, Utah got by Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's got by Texas Tech. Tech got by Arizona State,
mm-hmm.
but that's a really good team.
Beat Texas Tech.
That's a team with NFL talent all over it, right?
Yeah.
And people are looking at it and saying like, oh, well, okay, if you get blown out, that's going to be a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But if you lose by 2 scores to a top 10 team, it's a lot different than losing a 2-score game to a top 75 team.
Yeah,
that's what happened to Georgia Tech.
For sure. And, if BYU goes down and even plays a close game, I think they're going to answer a lot of questions.
I think that BYU made sure that LJ Martin is playing before these playoff rankings come out as well, because like you're talking about, hey, well, who's available?
Yeah.
Injury report doesn't come out for a couple more days,
right.
But the report that Pete Thamel and everyone's saying, no, LJ Martin's going to play.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's paying attention to that.
Yeah, and that's it's always interesting to see whether or not the committee actually shows with their work what they promised that they were going to do this time around, because it really is a lose-lose for them. I always feel bad for the committee chair after the rankings. He just sits there and he just gets his ass kicked. Everybody's just killing him like, hey, you said you were going to use this metric. Because in a way, college football has turned into politics where you can find a metric that backs up your cognitive dissonance, backs up what you already believe.
Yes, every Utah fan right now is clinging to the FPI. Oh, we're the 7th best team.
S&P Plus. Bill Conley loves us.
Let's go. It's great.
Yeah.
But you got to win the games. And Utah, I think, still has a lot to play for. I think that there's a lot of conversation to be had about the tiebreakers that could get you into a conference championship game. I still think there's a teeny little sliver of hope that there's something even beyond that and at large, because the ACC is playing their way out of a lot of conversations. There's not a Boise State obvious great group of 4 this year.
James Madison doesn't get you going?
I mean, South Florida doesn't really excite me all that much.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, we'll see. You got to win, though, right? What the metrics don't say much beyond win and loss. That's what really matters.
I hope that you're correct, because that flies in the face of what we all know about sports. And I've said this for years. When I have fans come at me about analysis this, takes that, I'm like, well, the good news is we have a scoreboard. So we're going to see what that looks like at the end of the game. And that really should be the first data point, the first piece of criteria. And BYU should be ranked ahead of Utah. And tonight, BYU should be ranked ahead of Texas Tech. They should, because they're clean. So how much of it is that, and how much of it is just this other stuff? Or are they just going to say, the top the top 4 seeds are simply the Big Ten champ, the SEC champ, and then the loser of the SEC championship game
Yes.
and the loser of the Big Ten. Those are probably going to be the top 4 seeds, if I had to guess. But we will learn tonight what they think about the conference. I don't think we're going to learn anything that gives us finite information about what it's going to be the rest of the way. Last thing, though, I was digging into the Big 12 tie-breaking scenarios, and it's a little bit like the Charlie Day meme where he's doing the thing with the board where everything's all over the place. But there's a website where you can plug in results the rest of the way. And if you operate off the presumptive favorites winning the rest of the way, now this is presuming BYU loses to Cincinnati, which is a big assumption.
I don't think they will.
They'll be on the road. It's at Cincinnati, right?
Uh-huh.
So what will that Vegas line look like? If Cincinnati is favored by 1.5, which is not completely out of the realm, depending on what happens with BYU and Tech this weekend. If BYU loses to Tech and they lose to Cincinnati and Utah runs the table, according to my understanding, tiebreaker number 1 is head-to-head, but tiebreaker number 2 is winning percentage against common opponents. And with Utah's win over Cincinnati, if BYU loses to them, that's enough to get them in, according to what the Big 12 website represented. But there are 17 different, and then the last one's like, coin flip. We ran out of ideas. We're just flipping a coin. But to your point, you got to play the games. So we'll see what happens this weekend.
Yeah. There are tiebreaker scenarios all over the place, but if you don't win, they all become moot.
Correct.
Like, you don't beat Baylor, all of us just have to come on for the next 5 days and be like, that would have been cool if you didn't do that.
You want to go to the Alamo Bowl now? All right, sweet.
Is Coach Witt retiring now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to win these games.
Yeah.
And if you play like you did on Saturday, you could beat anybody, including Texas Tech or BYU or any of the teams that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Shohei Ohtani's home run ball just got somebody a 4-pack of sneak preview tickets to Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Stay tuned for the drive. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.